Too bad we can't be funny, right?
Yeah. Women aren't funny. Women.
You guys, we got our first Women Aren't Funny, and I just like have to celebrate.
It's probably my favorite comment that we've ever gotten, and I might put it on t-shirts.
Honestly,
I might.
I might get it for you on your birthday cake.
I gotta say,
just like a
oh my God, yeah, just print it on there. Yeah. You're not funny. I gotta say though, all of you are so fucking awesome because I feel like we don't even need to respond to everyone, and they just get like slapped in the comments. It's so these we're hiring you all for PR.
Truly, we're like giving up our job.
Done. We'll sit back.
Exactly.
We don't need to worry about this. We have to work on being funny.
Exactly, which we can't. So we'll be working on it forever. Welcome back to Splice and Splatter, the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where classic horror
meets modern gore.
I ran out of air. I'm so sorry.
God,
you did to a good start.
All in one breath?
Yeah.
Oh, Siena.
Uh-oh. We're gonna see how today goes. I'm Siena.
I'm Al.
And what are we talking about today, Al?
First off, you should be watching us on YouTube because we try, not all the time. Siena's better at it than me because I wear predominantly black, so that doesn't kind of blend. But we try to dress to
all
theme.
Black today.
Yeah. So we try to dress. So we're covering I'm doing I Know What You Did Last Summer.
And I'm doing Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah. So I feel like if you're watching, look, fit check. We need to start posting our outfits.
We should do that could be a little TikTok segment.
For those not watching, you want to describe?
I have the classic tiny 80s boy shorts.
Yeah.
And my 80s style Samia merch tee, which I just have to shout out. I'm entirely wearing today because I am on a years-long Instagram campaign to get Samia to notice me. She is my favorite artist. I am obsessed. I'm in love. I will never get over it.
Is it a dual outfit then?
Yes.
And also you gotta talk about your hair.
Two birds, one stone. Two Samias, one stone. My hair, it was supposed to be in the back half ponytail that Angela did, and it is too curly today. The curls were sticking together. I couldn't pull them apart without turning it into a rat's nest, so we're getting what we're getting.
You gave up once you got in here.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. You saw me trying.
I feel like you wouldn't get it out of whatever you were going to put it in.
No.
I'd be afraid. Yeah. It's kind of got a life of its own at this point.
It does.
I'm so jealous. We're opposite ends of the hair pool.
The
shallow
problem with
end.
my hair is whatever direction I encourage it in, it takes it and runs farther than I could have expected with it. So I left it in braids overnight, and it was just like, oh, we're doing that now, are we? Yeah.
So I'll show you.
Yeah. So my hair's winning. Yeah. I'm losing. We're gonna see.
So good.
Yeah.
My hair's just doing the same thing it always does. Tried to dye it. There's still a brown spot that won't dye black.
I haven't noticed that. First of all,
not in the red lighting. You're not going to see it. Also, you never sit on the side of me outside of here.
That's true.
The left is my good side for camera.
The right is my good side for camera. It's
we
perfect.
Really this,
and which we never actually discussed, did we?
I kind of bullied you into letting me sit here. I was like, where do you want to sit?
Yeah.
I prefer over here.
Well, I was hoping that you would give me this side anyway, so there was no argument. It was great.
I love it.
Just how all the best things on the podcast work out. No planning, but it looks like there was.
I was going to say. Yeah, it's going to fumble into it.
It's so true. Speaking of fumbling into things, do you have a tidbit for me?
I don't, but I do have a me tidbit.
Give me an
I was going to tell
Those
you.
are my favorite tidbits. Let's be honest.
I know it's end of July when this comes out, start of August, which to me is the start of fall. And I'm just going to say it.
Like, anything post 4th of July.
Yeah.
Let's be
I'm
honest.
like, I'm spooky. Yes. I already Halloween shopped twice. My whole trunk is filled with so many Halloween decorations I have to put in storage.
I saw Spirit Halloween memes coming out, and I was about to send one to the podcast's Instagram, and then I saw that you'd already liked it as the podcast, and I was like, cool, great.
Yeah, I already have that saved to post. Yeah, so I'm very much ready for spookies. I mean, not that I don't live in it all year round, but like there's something
the spookiest
different.
Season.
Yeah, the spookiest season. And so I watched 3 horror films outside of these 2.
Oh, I love it.
The last couple days. Because I don't think people realize too, like, because me and Siena work from home most days, we don't actually see each other for like 5 days in between. We see each other for 2 days a week.
I think is good because otherwise we would run out of tidbits to share with each other. Well,
do you think?
That's true.
We have to constantly keep this thing from being 2.5 hours long. I don't think We'd run out.
Now that you put it that way, I don't think we would ever run out of things to talk about.
They would get progressively stupider.
That's true. More of my
but-
bimbo would come
yeah,
out over
yeah,
time.
We'll just see the true Siena.
Yes.
But yeah, so I watched Nope again because
Which I still haven't seen.
that might be my birthday pick. I don't know. We might have to poll people. I might have to make you
Ooh.
watch.
Do you want
Nope.
to do like a Jordan Peele-a-thon?
I might have
I'd
to.
be really into
I might
that.
have to.
That's
Because it's so good. So, anyways,
Yeah.
well then you have to wait because maybe we'll watch it then. So I
Okay.
watched Nope. I watched Secret Window again, which is so
is that
good.
the
Johnny
John
Depp.
Cusack? No, Johnny Depp.
Yeah, Johnny
Yes.
Depp. Oh my God, that's
Um,
another one. We watched 4 horror movies.
Oh
my
my
God. 'Cause-
goodness.
so I watched
Is
Secret
that
Window. It's Johnny Depp
Stephen
and John.
King adaptation,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
and John
okay.
Turturro's in it, and he's
Yes,
so
I do remember this one.
good. He has like that
Yes.
southern drawly accent.
Yes. I
It's so
haven't thought
good.
about that movie in years.
Oh,
Now I wanna
rewatch
be-
it.
Yeah.
Rewatch it. It's so
Cool.
fun. I actually like forgot the twist again.
Oh,
So
I
it was a
don't
nice
remember.
little like
Yeah.
I remember that.
I was definitely a kid when I watched that one.
Oh
so,
my
yeah,
God.
yeah,
Rewatch.
definitely.
The
That could be a good one for
rewatchability
the
on that
podcast at
is
some
so
point.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then actually I did watch Identity is what it's called. Yeah, Identity with John Cusack. And baby Busey, what's his name? He's in it too. He's terrifying. Who? We're gonna start giving Warren and Trav mics because they just simultaneously went Jake.
With the exact
Jake
same
Cusack.
intonality
Or,
too. Which was,
Busey.
did you just say Jake Cusack? I love that.
You didn't hear it.
Oh, we're off.
You didn't
to
know nobody
such a
heard
good
that.
start.
Nobody heard that. I have multiple people talking at me. I'm very overstimulated right now.
I think we're both enough on many different spectrums that hearing more than one person talking at once gets very confusing.
Especially
very
with all the
quickly.
voices in
Yes,
my head. already.
exact. But that's
It's too many
that's the
people
point.
in
There's
there.
always at least a
There's
couple
too many
people
people.
talking in there. Yeah.
Have you seen Identity?
No, I don't think I have.
That one's fun too. That one's that one's a loaded movie. And it's so fun to watch though, but it is like you're trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with all the people trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. So it's really fun. It's very like noir-y.
I love that.
So, and then I watched I think it's 1996. There's a movie called The Arrival with Charlie Sheen. It's an alien movie. Warren's not as. I was
Yes,
wondering.
I
I was like, I can't wait to ask Warren, have you seen it? Have you?
No, but I feel like Warren told us about
It's
it.
so good. It was one of my childhood faves. I think it was like the start of my alien obsession as a kid. That's a longer story of me and my little alien diaries. So I watched those 4 and then obviously, and then I watched my movie actually a day before I normally watch it because I was so excited.
Oh my god!
I watched
I
yours
love
yesterday. So I've
that.
just had
I
like a
was-
weekend filled with horror. I'm so ready. My body is ready. Take
I
me.
was so pleased to hear this. Also, before I forget this idea, I'm just going to shout out live on air. I don't know when Warren's birthday is, but we should do an alien themed Warren-a-thon.
Yeah, Warren's
for
like, it was
Warren's
last week,
birthday.
didn't tell you. Okay, it's coming up. So yeah, we should.
Yeah. All right. Just
Then our first
putting-
episode of Between Two Queers. Put 'em
Exactly.
right in the
There
middle.
you go. Yeah.
Tell the aliens.
Just have him sit where the skull is currently
Yeah,
sitting.
just
Yeah.
on the table.
Yeah. See how long it
kid
holds
seat.
up. Yeah.
Booster seat. Oh my gosh. Anyways, did you watch any spooky things or do anything fun?
I did watch. It wasn't really. There's a ghost in it. I watched the Michael Almereyda adaptation of Hamlet with
Oh.
Ethan Hawke in it, and Julia Stiles. Love Ethan
Oh.
Hawke. Love Julia Stiles. Ethan Hawke, I've got to say, I thought was terrible in this.
Really?
Whoa.
Whoa.
It was.
I don't think I've ever
He
seen
was
him
the
bad.
worst Hamlet I've ever seen.
Okay, when you're holding people up to like Hamlet,
To
that's a tough one.
ham
to,
standards.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
hard thing. Well, especially when you're up against Julia Stiles, who is like the best at modern Shakespeare. At like, you're not gonna beat Julia Stiles, and so
She
was
has that
just like,
delivery.
yeah,
running laps.
Yeah, she was just
Good
running
for
laps
her.
around everybody, and I was like, but I want to see her be Hamlet.
Yeah. Oh my god, that'd be so cool.
We can still make it happen, people.
Yeah, we got time.
We've got
time.
time. So, does take place though in it's set in 2000, and it's like all in like a part of it takes place in like a Blockbuster Video, and so I
Oh,
was enjoying
amazing.
that. I was also reading some horror books from Beastly this weekend.
Ooh.
So I've been reading Silver Nitrate
Oh, yeah,
by
yeah, yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm forgetting her first name.
I can see the cover in
Yeah,
my head too.
yeah.
We've been talking about it.
It's
Yeah.
so good. It was actually a staff pick at Beastly last month, and if you listen to this podcast, you'll like it because it's about um the Mexican horror film industry and spooky things happening in it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's filled with little like meta horror references, and
Yeah.
it's like set in the 90s in Mexico City. It's just very good spooky vibes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
didn't watch a ton
But
of horror
reading.
this
Oh,
this
nice.
past weekend, but did do some horror reading.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to follow up with the Stephen Graham Jones book that
I was a
prompted
teenage
this pairing. Yeah, I was a teenage
slasher.
slasher.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I've been seeing because it only just came out. I've
Yeah.
been seeing little pieces of people's reactions coming through on
Oh.
Beastly's socials, and I'm like
Oh.
trying to avoid spoilers. But
Oh
it's
shit!
like
Yeah, yeah.
it looks
so good.
It
Yeah,
looks so good.
he's great.
He's amazing.
He's just a cool dude too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of that, we're gonna actually, for those who are local to New Mexico, Santa Fe,
Mhm.
Albuquerque, surrounding areas, one of our old sponsors, Rose at the Crow's Nest,
Yes, we
has
love
so graciously
Rose.
invited us to the Bruja Brunch, which is August 10th. At the Crow's Nest. I can't remember the intersection, but it's where the food trucks are.
It's where the food trucks are.
Also,
It's-
Google's a wonderful tool.
This
If you
is
want to look
true.
up. But August 10th, from like 11 to 6, me and Siena will be there. We'll have
Yeah.
some Splice merch. We'll have some cool horror posters. We'll have some
Designed by Al.
Beastly, yeah,
Mhm.
some Beastly like horror books and stuff. So come say hi to us there. We also were playing Jaws at the Jean Cocteau Cinema.
The
The same,
9th through 11th.
yeah, the same weekend.
Yeah.
So, go see Jaws on the big screen.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be playing it.
I'm still really into So King's idea, or one of our wonderful drink experts,
Yeah.
drink guru. He was suggesting that we do a Jaws themed cocktail, but with one of those giant jelly
Oh yeah,
sharks.
he just like started giggling in the meeting with a giant jelly shark. I'm probably gonna buy a little one. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll definitely have some bloody.
There will be some
drink.
goodies. Yeah.
yeah. So those are the two fun things if you want to come like hang out and stuff.
Mhm.
And then yeah, we're working on merch. So I don't know if you all have interest in that, but we're doing it. We're trying to design some things that are like cool. That if you're just a horror fan, I feel like you would want to wear it. So.
I can't wait for the haunted doll energy.
Yeah,
one
yeah, we
that
got
Al's is-
haunted.
I'll just tease that. There's
Yeah.
haunted doll energy merch
Yeah.
coming.
And bloody. It's all bloody.
Yes.
It's black.
As as we all
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
and
So
should
those
be.
are
Yeah.
all the work things.
All the work things. Oh, also the Stephen Graham Jones book. We have signed copies at Beastly. That's the
yeah.
other work thing.
Yeah. Always
Um,
signed.
Always signed. Always goodies. Are there
Look
other
at
work
us.
things?
I
Is
don't
that all the
know.
work
That was-
things? That was a
felt
lot of work
pretty
things.
fucking professional for me. So way to go. I think my customer service voice came out there a little bit on accents of the podcast. My real voice. My spiel when I'm like trying to think, it like just goes
Mhm.
into a different octave.
Just switch into like a slight transatlantic accent.
No, can't think about it. Although I did do a really good Gypsy Rose impression this weekend.
That
Can't
does
do it again.
not surprise me.
Yeah.
That,
So
okay.
On that
new
note.
goal: try and get the Gypsy Rose impression out of Al at some
One
point.
day. I think it just has to come within. Do you
Ugh.
have a tidbit?
I do have a tidbit.
Oh.
Are you a 30 Rock watcher?
I did when it like was airing, and I
Okay.
haven't revisited since.
But you're
so.
familiar
Mhm.
with
Yeah, yeah.
with the world of 30
Oh
Rock.
gosh.
Remember our dear friend Jenna Maroney?
Yeah.
Jane Krakowski, the actress who played Jenna Maroney, was almost cast as Judy in this movie. Well, she
No.
was cast as Judy, dropped out at the last minute because she decided that Judy's death was too gruesome, which
Oh.
I just think is hilarious in retrospect because honestly, like killing somebody with like heated curling iron to the vagina feels like a very Jenna Maroney thing to do. So the fact
funny.
yeah, that's
How old would she have been? Like the same.
I think she was
age?
I think she was maybe
That
like
would have been
14 or
wild if
so.
that was her first, like one of her first like
Isn't
roles
that
that now would have.
fascinating?
I feel like put her in a completely different.
Different
I could see
category,
her
right?
being
I think she would have been amazing at
like a
it.
scream queen.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and
Oh.
I mean,
Oh, no,
Judy,
she-
the character, especially, it's so like she's the mean girl, which is
Yeah.
very much what like Jane Krakowski's so good at those
Mm-hmm.
characters. I'm sure she's an incredibly lovely person in real
Yeah,
life.
I feel like
but
sometimes the nicest people play mean the best.
the best, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so
Oh, wild.
almost played Judy,
No
which
way.
is fascinating because the actress who actually plays Judy, this is pretty much the only thing she was ever in. So,
Fun.
but yeah, the character was originally supposed to be blonde. Also, was kind of the goal. So, which
Yeah,
I kind of like that that's not the case.
I was gonna say I want to talk about that with that because I kind of love that there's characters that like spin.
That's kind of the whole thing with Sleepaway Camp, isn't it? Is characters.
I love it. I love it.
Things.
These two. So to kind of like kick off the actual movies,
get into the meat.
Not that I was like, oh, it's just like I've watched. I think Sleepaway Camp 2 is what I'm most familiar with.
Oh, interesting.
So revisiting 1 I was like, okay, we'll watch 1 again, and I was like, I haven't watched I Know What You Did Last Summer in forever, so I was kind of like. Yeah, like they're fine going into it. Like I'm excited to watch them, whatever. But like, oh my god, I walked out of specifically I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think I might rewatch this all the time now.
It's so much more rewatchable than I expected it to be. This was my first time watching it. But
it was, oh my god, it was everyone.
Yeah.
Wait, all of you, it was your first time watching it? Even Warren watched it this time
look at
too.
That. Oh. Bringing us over to the dark side.
You all
in your clutches.
Do you liked it then?
Oh yeah,
not
I
to
had a
get
great
like
time. I mean, all the Frood jokes. Are you kidding me? Of course I liked it.
Yeah.
But,
the dialogue in this too was one of those ones where it was like, holy shit! Like the dialogue's
it's
really
snappy.
Yeah. Except right at the end, the Freddie Prinze Jr. moment with their little like talk, I was like, okay, me and Trev had to like reach across and like grab each other. So we're like, this is cringy.
there was a point about 10 minutes from the end of the movie where I wasn't entirely sure what was happening.
Which part?
Like once everybody's on the boat and we're not sure what's going on with Billy Blue and who's really
the whole dock scene,
who actually died and who didn't, and whether is he a ghost or not. I don't. Is there a super? Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'm still very confused about what happened. I might need you to tell me what happened in this movie.
Well, I did the thing where I was like, "Is that the necklace from before?"
Yeah.
I don't think there's a supernatural thing going on.
There's no supernatural thing.
I don't think so.
Interesting. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, we're gonna have jakes. Yeah,
interesting.
It feels like
Did I just add that in for myself?
No, because I think that's the thing too, which we'll get into, like with the source material and stuff like that. I think it's one of those ones because it comes from like this childhood like tale that it feels very like lore and like supernatural and just like, did that really happen or didn't it? But yeah, it seems very like by the end, I think it like wrapped itself up in being it just the old switcheroo.
I guess there was like a part of me that was almost wishing that it
had a little bit of that. Yeah. There is an air to it though, because again, it's like this like not so I Know What You Did Last Summer in 1997. I feel like it has this like I don't know. For me, being not a teen in the 90s, but like tween-esque. It has that like summer of mystery kind of vibe to it. So I feel like inherently it feels supernaturally and like
interesting. It's like kind of tied to the time period for you.
Yeah, because again, you have like this man that's wearing this slicker, which I love that they keep saying
the slicker.
The fisherman, with the hat and everything. So it feels very like, is that a goat? Like that could be a bunch of raccoons underneath that coat.
Truly, a bunch of raccoons in a trench coat, a bunch of raccoons in a slicker. I guess I kind of it seemed like it was heading in a direction of the hook hand man, the classic figure, being like a Bob from Twin Peaks style apparition that like possesses different people in the story. And I almost felt like that would have been scarier to me, maybe. But I don't know that that's fair.
Yeah. I was gonna say, as we get into it too, I think you'll realize why maybe they didn't go that way, because
So
just like
let's
so we
dive
can
in.
dive
Yeah,
in.
I'm so sorry.
Description: release date was October 17th, 1997. So 4 young friends bound by a tragic accident, tragic indeed, are reunited when they find themselves being stalked by a hook-wielding maniac in their small seaside town. I have some fun taglines here. This one had a slew of them.
Great taglines, I'm sure.
I'll start with my the worst. Which is
Go
a
from
very
worst
long
to best.
tagline. Yeah. So someone knows their secret. Someone knows they're scared. And someone knows what they did last summer. This secret is about to kill them all. Basically a summary.
Yeah, I don't think that's a tagline at that point.
Here's my favorite tagline. He's got the hook on them.
No!
That's my favorite. I knew you were gonna have that reaction. It's so good. That's my favorite.
I hate it because
I'm
that feels like
tattoo
something I
across
would...
my chest.
Right. ...
is really what it ends in. If you're going to bury the truth, make sure it stays buried. That's a classic.
That's all right. I'll take it. I'll accept it.
What started as a new beginning is becoming a dead end. I like that one. That one's fun.
That feels like it should be for like a road horror movie, though.
Yeah,
Like,
not a
that's-
seaside
yeah.
car accident thing.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's the
Car accident.
accident.
Both of us forget that. That's how it all starts. Wait a second. There's a car accident?
There is a car in this movie. My God.
To be fair, it's so early on. Anyways.
Thanks for covering me out. Appreciate you trying to make excuses for my complete lack of memory.
There's
of the movie I
that
just
bimbo
watched
we
yesterday.
promised you. And then the last one I have has a little fun fact. So another tagline was, from the writer of Scream comes a terrifying new experience that won't die.
Was this written by the same screenwriter as Scream?
It was
That
Kevin
makes so much
Williamson.
sense. Because it feels like such a Scream, whether you want to call it a ripoff or homage, it feels so like...
I mean, we know the little meme I posted yesterday,
Yes.
but again, I have feelings that I don't think these are similar in any way, but it has the vibe of
Yes. It
Kevin
has the same
Williamson.
humor,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
makes sense.
Yes. And Kevin, he writes like that. He likes to add this weird little humor in that feels, I don't know, like it just slips in so effortlessly. It's like folded in. Really
Well, and
nicely.
it feels... Just fold it in, David.
The cheese. Fold in the cheese.
It feels so clearly like, again, we've talked about this before, but it's so obviously the humor of a horror nerd. Like
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
Which is...
Again, he just likes to watch like crew
Crew
There it
Tribe.
is. There's the tidbits and the tidtits and the crew tribe.
Oh, we officially got our first of the episode.
Every fucking... It's always when I go first, and it's always in the first 10 minutes I'm fucking talking.
But hey, at least you get it over with, and then you're
I'm gonna get to
good
my
for the rest of it. You're golden.
My
Your
tidbit.
I still think that should be merch also.
Tidbit, yeah. I would wear it.
Just like a crop
But
top
now.
that says Tidbit.
We might have to do that.
Weigh in.
So this tagline, I know you seem surprised by it. So they used it in the original trailer for the movie. And Miramax, who were the owners of Scream, because Scream came out a year before, successfully sued Columbia Pictures over false advertising for the
Whoa.
phrase, and then it was removed. So they were like, "That ain't your movie. You can't say say that."
Wow.
Isn't that
Even
wild?
though it was the same screenwriter. That's so interesting.
They were like,
I
"You
didn't-
can't market it as the same for Scream because they didn't own."
You know, I've always wondered
wild?
so often when you watch trailers, it'll say like the coming from Oscar-winning actress,
Mhm.
but it won't say
The
what.
movie?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
hadn't put that
I
together.
think there's little like
before.
rights that are in. Those contracts have to be beefy.
I should have realized that would be a thing, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, so they successfully sued them and really
That's
take
so
it off.
Interesting.
But it's still up there in like the list of taglines. You can still probably find it. So,
Man.
yeah.
I mean, it's a good.
This is
one
my
to sell
favorite
it
one
with,
because they
yeah.
got sued over it.
Love that. I also have a little suing story in mind once we get to it. but
Shit!
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
I know.
we'll save that.
These are. This was juicy. I had like. I think I have like 8 pages of notes,
Same.
which we're not going to get through.
I wasn't expecting this to be nearly as. I thought that
Me
there wasn't going to be a
either.
whole lot on.
Yeah.
I know what you or on Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
especially like being as low budget as it is.
Same.
it's-
Yeah. I wasn't.
yeah.
I was expecting to be like, I got all the things. You
Yeah.
can take it easier this week. So
Yeah, I thought it was.
Nope.
Yeah.
buckle up. We got a lot to get through.
Buckle up, baby. Yeah.
Buckle up. Don't get hit by a car.
There you go.
So this is a hard R rating. The original UK Cinema actually released it with their rating system, which was basically, I think it's called BBFC, with an 18, and then kind of knocked it down to a 15 rating. For the video and DVD release too. They put it all in there, but hard R. Which is surprising because we'll get to that there wasn't a lot of gore in
I was gonna
this
say, I'm trying to think of what the
purposely.
scenes would be that would give it.
I mean, it's
that.
pretty. I'm gonna be honest. This is way more brutal than I remember, and I don't even like. I didn't even realize until later how little blood there in this, but the kills are brutal.
The kills are brutal.
A hook through the jaw.
I was thinking, partially because I've been talking to a friend this weekend about
Like,
the
partially 'cause
Texas
I've been hanging
chainsaw.
out hanging out with fishermen.
Partially because I've been hanging out on hooks. I'd been talking with a friend about the Texas chainsaw scene, where is it Sally? No, it's not Sally.
I forget everybody's name.
Names, who cares? People, who cares?
Yeah, people.
She's
But
dead
hooks,
anyway.
on the other hand.
Hooks hook me. But the scene where the first woman killed in Texas Chainsaw is hung on the hook. That it's famously, we got
we had like
censored on TikTok.
127,000 views on that TikTok, which if you go, it's just blurred out because there's a warning. But that one got we got flagged for that, and we were like, but there's no blood, and you can't see the hook going in.
You don't see the hook going. And I was thinking about that, watching all of the hook kills in this movie, and thinking this is so much more graphic, and yet Texas Chainsaw feels more brutal somehow still. Yeah. Which is so interesting. Yeah.
It's a different grittiness to it, where I feel like this is a little bit more that 90s.
There's a certain sleekness to it.
Sprinkled with camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
These are both very campy.
Yeah.
I mean, literally in my case. But
the jokes won't stop here.
Again, too bad we're not funny.
We gotta cancel the comedy tour. So we're gonna get to box office. I almost just spilled the beans.
Oh.
Can you guess how much this one cost? 1997. Kind of the cusp of all of these actors, I think, really.
I was thinking it seems like these are names that now I would think back on as big 90s stars, but maybe they weren't so much at the time.
They were baby in this.
Yeah.
Jennifer Love Hewitt was 18.
She's so tiny.
Baby.
Oh my. And I also the only other thing I've seen her in is the Garfield movies. So
I know, I actually
wildly
I thought
different.
she was in more stuff when we get to her credits. I thought she was in more stuff than she was, but I think I just think of her in a few select things.
Yeah, she's memorable in the things that she's in. What was I going to say? Oh, how much was it? For whatever reason, my gut instinct is to yell out $5 million.
Oh, a little bit higher than a decent amount higher-ish.
10?
I guess.
Higher than that. 15? Oh my god, what?
Just a little bit.
17?
Yeah.
That
17
feels excessive to me.
Yeah.
Especially because, again, there's not that much going on in terms of I guess there is a fair amount of underwater shooting, which always, as we learned last time, gets expensive quick.
No facts on that this time. Sorry to just put that out there. If you're trying to skip forward to the water facts, don't have them. We know how that's done by now.
We spent 40 days and 40 nights on that last time.
Barge of Misery.
On the Barge of Misery.
That also shirts. I want to make sure to tell that. I watched
Life is just a barge of misery. Yeah.
Sometimes.
So good.
But yeah, so 17 million, but it made 125.3 back. So it was a really, and you got to think it came off a year after Scream. So it was kind of like this new era of stuff. But they were all kind of babies in this. So director Jim Gillespie. There we go. Jim Gillespie. I'm going to call him Director Jim for the rest of this. Because in a behind the scenes, they call him Director Jim, and now I'm doing that.
I'm going to need to do the same because my guy also has a very difficult last name.
Scottish. So I'm sure there's a better way to say that. That's not my awful accent. But yeah, so Jim Gillespie, Director Jim. He's a Scottish director and got the gig actually because writer Kevin Williamson suggested him.
Oh, cool.
He was kind of like a fan and got really excited about it. And so threw his name in the thing. In the hat, director in the thing. They threw in the barge of misery. We're like, you, sir.
Threw it in the ocean.
Tossed him in. CV floated. He did. He got the gig.
There you go.
you know, that's how it happens.
Got mistaken for his son.
For those that don't know, that's how it happens. Why do you think they're by the ocean? They just throw them in there. They float, they get the kick. Come on, kids, step right up.
It's like those like 1600s witch tests where you toss somebody in, and if they drown, then they're not a witch, and if they float, then they are, and so you have to kill them or whatever it was. Yeah.
Either way, dead.
Dead.
Good luck. So director Jamie Blanks originally put together a trailer as an audition to direct, but came in like a week too late and lost the job.
Oh.
But a little fun fact, one of the producers actually remembered Blanks for another thing, and he went on to do Urban Legend in 1998.
Oh,
so
interesting. So
turn your working on time, and you'll get the gig. Could have gotten it. So director Jim said that though he was unfamiliar with the source material, so this was based off a book by Lois Duncan.
Oh, female author.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Cool.
So he wasn't familiar with the source material, but he said that when they auditioned people, specifically the girls, 60 to 65% of them auditioning had read the novel as children.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is really kind of
That's
like a cool.
super interesting.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a popular.
Yeah, people knew the title of the book, and they were like, "Oh,
Wow.
I really want to audition for this," or their
That's-
agents were like, "This is a really cool thing."
It's funny because one of the notes that I wrote down while watching was, "Oh, so this is what Pretty Little Liars is ripping off." Because
is it?
I mean, it feels very much in that same vein, and I was coming of age at the time that the Pretty Little Liars books were out, but the TV series was only like just starting, and so I read a bunch of those like paperback like teen murder mysteries, and so it very much felt like that kind of
Oh, totally.
yeah.
I think again, well, it is just very much one of those. If you put it on paper, like black and white, it is kind of this nice story that we're all really familiar with, especially now. But for the time too, I feel like all those like murder mystery or like
There's something cozy about it.
I know.
almost,
Why is it
right?
like really comforting? I was gonna feel like, is that a weird thing to say?
Comforting
It's such a
murder.
cozy. That's why I'm like wearing my little flannel, and I'm just
Yeah,
like
again, it's like the
got a
start
little
of
cup of
fall.
tea, and I'm like, ooh,
I say on
nice.
July 31st.
as we're like dying sweat with a fan on.
Yeah.
And I chose long sleeves today. Like I said, this is from writer Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream and like every other
Cool.
Scream after it.
Did he do all of the? I didn't know that they
He did
had the same
he did
screenwriter for
2,
some-
3,
Wow.
4, and then some of the new ones.
Wow. Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That makes
so-
me more interested in watching
some of it. Yeah.
next
Yeah, I just
installments.
love his brain. He just seems so like cool, like calm, cool, collected in interviews, and he's just like having a good time. Like you said, I think he's just a horror nerd.
Yeah.
So writing and like having little chuckles and putting his like own humor in there.
There's
I
like
think.
a cattiness to his
Yeah,
work. that
he
I
seems a
really
little
like.
sassy.
Yeah, yeah.
He also did Vampire Diaries. He wrote like a bunch of the seasons for that, and
Oh,
Dawson's
interesting.
Creek, which makes so much sense because this feels like a really fucked up Dawson's Creek episode. Like a really long,
Oh my
really fucked up Dawson's Creek
God,
episode.
That's so funny.
And there's some references
Not
to
wrong.
Dawson's Creek in
Are
this
there
as
really?
well.
Wow.
Yes.
Back in the days when there was enough pop culture, everybody watching the same thing at one time for there to be those kinds of
I
references.
was late to Dawson's Creek.
I have to admit, I've not seen
It's
a
fun.
full episode.
It's
I've
fun.
seen
I gotta
clips.
say, it was better than I thought it was gonna be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll
Have
to
not
give
finished it
Dawson's Creek
yet.
a try.
So I think it's taken me like 7 years to finish the last season. I don't want it to end. Also, it's in like the college years. I'm like, wah, wah.
Fair.
Love James Vanderbeek, but his character's getting a little like, okay, we see it. We get it. You want to make film.
Same.
You would actually identify too hard.
Same.
To it. Never mind. Take it back. So
We get it. You wanna
we
make
get it. You
film,
wanna make
okay.
it? What, you want to make a filmmaker? Dawson. So
It's
going.
me. New
I'm
Halloween
Dawson.
costume idea.
Just put a camera in your hands. Like I said earlier, this is a screenplay adaptation of author Lois Duncan's suspense novel by the same name. Apparently, Lois was super opposed to this being turned into a horror film.
It seems so. Wow.
She was, quote,
interesting.
appalled, is what she said in one interview, but it was because at the time, her youngest daughter was actually murdered by an unknown assailant in 1989.
Oh,
So from the time
no.
she came out, so the novel came out in 73.
Oh, that's awful.
Her daughter was murdered in 89, and then this was like optioned and stuff. So I think she was just a little
understand why
triggered.
that would be.
Yeah.
That would change your feelings around it.
Yeah. She says, as the mother of a murdered child, I don't find violent death something to squeal and giggle about. And although like her book and this movie weren't too far off from one another, no one actually dies in the book. There's just like close calls, people get injured. So I think she was just like
That's interesting.
an upset mother, rightfully so.
Yeah.
So to see this probably something that's like so close to her
it's going to be hard to avoid.
Yeah.
Feeling some intense feelings about that.
Yeah. So, but it got optioned. So it happened. Sorry. So
Well, and it's both of these films actually still have fairly few deaths in them, which is something that I get into in Sleepaway
there's
Camp
only like
specifically.
6, I think. Yeah, way less in Sleepaway Camp.
In Sleepaway Camp, it's very unclear who actually dies, which is something that they apparently take a lot of advantage of in subsequent installments.
Oh, gotcha.
But
yeah, these had minimal deaths, still kind of brutal deaths.
Yeah, but lots of close calls without death, which is not pretty atypical for horror films.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
just shouting that out.
Yeah, something to note. Put a pin in that.
Put a
too.
pin in that. Yeah.
So this is starring Jennifer Love Hewitt as Julie. Again, all these people were like just
Babies.
Yeah, like they were just at this like peak. So Jennifer Love Hewitt was just like freshly 18 for this, which I love. I only think of her from this and then Can't Hardly Wait.
Oh, which I haven't seen.
Oh, that's
but
so good.
yeah, again,
So not of the time.
I had a orange VHS copy of the Garfield movie as a little kid, and so that's the only I
forgot that she was in
that.
those. Yeah, she's in a bunch. She was also in the show Ghost Rider or Ghost Whisperer.
Oh,
Ghost Whisperer.
Yeah,
too. So that she had like a really long run with that. But Jennifer Love Hewitt was originally auditioned for the role of Helen, which is Sarah Michelle Gellar. So the two female leads. She was auditioned for Helen. Jennifer. All these like 3 named actors, I'm probably gonna say their full names and all of it. I'm sorry, I can't call her Jennifer.
No. She's Jennifer Love Hewitt.
She's Jennifer Love Hewitt. So sorry, guys. I actually strongly disliked horror films prior to making I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I think this is currently, other than like her show, The Ghost Whisperer, which I'm assuming is horror adjacent. She hasn't really gone on to make another horror film after this,
which is interesting because she has Scream Queen energy.
Oh my god, it's so good,
Right?
right? Yeah, her screams specifically in this are so good.
Excellent. But you need a good scream.
I think Trav said at one point, sounds like a pterodactyl.
That's what
Or
you
dinosaur,
want.
Yeah. So she had recently, or prior to this, had appeared along former Scream. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. Scream Queen, Jamie Lee Curtis. That was hard for you to say.
Another
in a movie called
Scream Queen.
Oh, for fuck's sake, guys. Again, buckle up. I hope you all stay in the car and I don't run any of you over with my dumb mouth. So they were in a movie. They were in a movie called House Arrest together. And when they were filming in North Carolina, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Jamie Lee Curtis was also in North Carolina, and she actually came over to the soundstage to wish her luck and like gave her a big hug. And so like she kind of like sent her off into the world of like I feel like being blessed by Jamie Lee Curtis on your like
that's
here's a hug, good luck. I'd be like, I can't fail now. I can't fail. I can't let her down.
Jamie Lee Curtis just seems like one of the funnest people in Hollywood.
Oh yeah. Like, I feel like she's like no bullshit. She'll tell you how it is.
Everything she did in the wake of Everything Everywhere All at Once, how proud she was of that movie.
Seeing her on the car. Yeah, I didn't watch the movie yet.
I think
sorry everybody.
I think you'll really like it.
Yeah.
I'll just say I think it's very
very saving that too.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, her on the carpet, she was just like everyone's proud mom.
Yeah. It was so
she seems great.
And the amount that she engages in her own memery, I just adore. But
we have a coworker here that told me a story of running into Jamie Lee Curtis here in New Mexico. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But
anonymous coworker.
She said that she was like pulling out of a parking lot and she almost like hit Jamie Lee Curtis's car or something like that, and Jamie Lee Curtis came out and like yelled at her, and I was like, we both were like, to be yelled by, by Jamie Lee Curtis. I was like, what an honor, and she was like, no,
Truly.
it was. She like wasn't upset.
Just from this description, I know
you know who it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love that you had that reaction. So I'm like, she could yell at me all day long.
Oh my,
I'll take it.
I would pay for her to yell at me all day long. Are you kidding me?
Mommy.
Yes.
Mommy energy for
yeah,
sure.
Truly.
But anyways, this is not about Jamie Lee Curtis here.
Not about Freud.
We have not about Freud. We have
It
Sarah
actually kind of is
Michelle.
about Freud.
that one specifically. We have Sarah Michelle Gellar as Helen, who also was up for the role of Julie. So they both auditioned for the
both
opposite
crossed
role,
paths.
and
So
both were
funny.
put back.
I
Because
love
casting was
that.
like, no.
That's so
you-
satisfying.
Good for you, but
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So
We're sticking to our blonde versus brunette horror stereotypes
oh
here.
my God, yeah. I mean, to be
Just
fair, I
satisfying.
cannot imagine.
It wouldn't have worked the other way around.
So Sarah Michelle Gellar was actually the last of the leads that they cast.
Because to me, in my mind at least, she is the most famous of all of them.
Yeah, she was doing Buffy at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so she was known for Buffy at the time, and director Jim commented on her casting. Director Jim said, "I wanted an actress that had warmth to her, but could still come off as being a bitch."
Ugh.
Which, if you watch Buffy, that's Buffy.
her.
You
Yep.
love Buffy,
Yeah.
but she's feisty as fucking. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a vampire slayer. She's gotta be a little feisty. She also, obviously, we know she's co-starred in this with her now husband, Freddie Prinze Jr., and this was actually the set that they met on. So even though they didn't have a lot of scenes together, they have like 2 lines of dialogue at each other,
Oh my
which
God,
I think they're like
love that.
fighting.
Yeah.
That they met and became really good friends, and then like fell in love after this.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, it's so cute. We have Anne Hesh as Missy, who, even though she's not in this film a lot,
Icon.
right?
Obsessed.
She kind of like steals it.
Yeah.
And then you think she's a murderer for a little bit too.
And she's queer in real life, which we love. Yeah.
So sad fact, she dead now. She died in 2022. Ironically, well, she also had lost a brother to suicide, so she kind of related really closely to this
man.
character. And she said, like, when they called her to do it, she recalled the experience as being 2 days worth of work that required her to be scary. And I think she also had put a lot of that energy into this
I can
character
imagine,
too.
Yeah.
And then she ironically tragically died in a car crash.
Oh, it's so awful.
I
Ugh.
know. I like again, I'm giggling because I'm nervous.
Yeah.
That's just like
Again, my
to be in
mom
a
calls
movie.
it the SIGs, situationally inappropriate
Oh
giggles.
my
It's
God,
yeah.
I do it, and
Yeah,
it's so
same.
bad when people cry at me, depending on the circumstance.
Does it make you laugh sometimes?
Yeah.
Same.
And I'm like, oh, you don't want to be around me. I'm really bad at like I can be really good at consoling people, and I can also be the worst person you want to fucking come to.
Same. Same.
Like it really needed absolutely 100 like no giggles, but if it's just like a casual,
But it's gonna be an
if
effort,
it's
man.
a casual cry, I start to giggle. That's why I make jokes, so then it looks like I'm just trying to make you feel better.
Right. Yeah.
Now everyone knows my secrets. Shit. We have Ryan Felipe as Barry. Most known for Cruel Intentions and Crash.
Of course.
He's still working on some stuff, but not as like big. Again, he was kind of up and coming. I think he was. Oh wait, no. He was like the most known at the time.
Oh, interesting.
Actually, of
Was this before or after Cruel Intentions?
I think it was after it because he was kind of known.
That
Was
makes
that
sense.
96? Trap's looking it up for us. Again, we
find
gotta
out.
get the mics.
Yeah.
So apparently, the crew had envisioned an actor that was 6'2", like quarterback type, and that because the character was written to be really intimidating, obviously. And I was like, no offense to Ryan Felipe, he ain't it.
No, not intimidating.
And so when he auditioned for the role, again, he had that like A-list celebrity factor going for him. But despite the fact that he was only 5'10", just his audition kind of sold it for him. And so that's why I think we also see him acting like larger than life. And to be fair, it's because they put him up to Freddie Prinze Jr., who's like, I think is 6'2".
Right.
And they wanted the character to be bigger so he could be like more intimidating to him.
Makes
But
sense.
I do think a character like that, he would have been too scary if he was acting like that and he was 6'2". He gives me like, I'm tiny, listen to me, I'm a little rich boy. Like it gives Cruel Intentions, but like unhinged his character.
I
You
mean,
know?
I think it's also just kind of like I don't know, as femmes who grew up at the time we did, there's, at least for me, and I imagine for you as well, something that's just like inherently scary enough about like an angry white dude who's like drunk in the back of your
Yeah,
car
yeah,
and like
yeah.
splashing alcohol
Yeah.
all over the place
Yeah.
and like screaming out
Oh
the
yeah, yeah. I would have been panicking. I would have been
Yeah.
Jennifer Love Hewitt's character.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm like, it
I
doesn't
probably
need to be
wouldn't have gotten
scarier.
the car, to be fair, at that time.
Yeah,
Point
yeah,
in time.
same.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't drink.
I would have been walking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
hitchhike,
Mhm.
because that's safer.
I'll hitchhike and get
Uh,
murdered. Yeah. Would rather die that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Car crash,
Yeah.
scary.
I'll take the horror I don't know over the horror I do.
Yeah, the unfamiliar feels
Yes.
better. So he was actually recommended for this role by his then girlfriend, Reese Witherspoon, which I thought was kind of cute.
Oh, that is cute.
Yeah, so Reese actually auditioned for I Know What You Did Last Summer and changed her mind and withdrew, but before she kind of popped out, she was like, "Hey, you know who would be really good? My boy,"
Aw.
which is really cute. So, and I can't picture anyone else again in that role because
Yeah,
he's
no,
just
it's
so
perfect.
wild with his little wife beat. Oh, maybe we should go on. Bitch respecters. So we call them. Yeah.
Oh my
That's nicer.
God. I have never heard that. I'm
Have you
always
never?
gonna use that.
Oh my God.
Never heard
It's
that.
our favorite thing to say.
Bitch respecters. That's
Yeah.
so good.
It's nicer, right?
Iconic.
So I just love that he doesn't change the whole movie.
Okay, so we need a bitch respecter that says tidbit.
Oh my God.
That's what we need.
I love a slutty little bitch respecter.
Oh,
with like
absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
summertime.
Yep.
We have Johnny Galecki as Max. I hope I said his name right. Most known for Roseanne and The Big Bang Theory.
Mhm.
Loved Roseanne. Loved him in Roseanne. He used to know Jennifer Love Hewitt, and they lived in the same apartment building when he was doing
funny.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Ah.
And so he said, I was about 13 or 14, and she was just like my little sister, and we were friends, so I knew her a bit. So it was kind of a nice little reunion for the two of them
didn't
as like
realize
children.
that was him in Christmas Vacation. That's so funny.
He's like,
yeah,
baby.
baby.
Which is crazy that he says he's like 13, 14. That he looks
Tiny.
8.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, I
so-
guess he's a small dude in real life. I
Yeah,
imagine.
he gives
Small kid.
tiny.
Yeah, gives tiny.
But yeah, so they had a little fam reunion.
That's so cute.
We have Freddie Prinze Jr. as Ray,
Mhm.
who is most known for She's All That,
Mhm.
and Fred and Scooby Doo. So good.
Incredible. Yeah.
So good. The live action Scooby Doos, you will never.
Yeah.
I will fight anyone that says those aren't like the most perfect movies
my
and the
God.
perfect casting that's ever existed ever.
Also, the live action Scooby Doo to adult horror fan pipeline.
Oh, direct.
Yeah.
Short, straight line.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. Love Freddie Prinze. What a time he had.
Oh, truly.
Not a great actor. But
I mean,
that's
great
Fred
for
Yes.
Fred.
Yeah.
I mean, he is Fred.
He's a
Like
himbo.
he gives
Yeah.
Fred. Yeah.
Yeah, because again, the end dialogue he has with Jennifer Love Hewitt on the dock, I was just like, we could have just.
Yeah.
That was probably something to cut.
I also just loved his like poorly dyed black hair so much.
Yeah, he really went in with that black dye of the day, didn't he? He kind of looks like me after a fresh dye,
it looks
which
like
looks like
he's just
Slappy from Goosebumps.
dipped in shoe polish.
Yeah. That's how
Yeah.
honestly when I put Just for Men on my eyebrows so I don't have to fill them in all the time.
That's genius.
It's genius hack.
Genius.
It saves so much time. But when I get out of the shower, like yesterday,
Mhm.
fresh dye, fresh brows, I look like Slappy from Goosebumps. I look
Amazing.
like Freddie Prinze Jr. in the 90s. Dipped in shoe polish. Turn me over. It's bad. So I feel for
Polish
him.
me up, baby.
Yeah, and he's a fair boy. So, speaking of his bad acting,
Brutal.
he actually wasn't the first pick or obvious choice for Ray for multiple reasons, I think, outside of his sweet acting. They actually, director Jim said nobody wanted Freddie. They thought he
Oh
was
my
too soft and he
God.
wasn't muscular enough. So
Oh.
Freddie probably screen tested 4 or 5 times.
Ugh.
He got to the point where he was just saying, I'm done. I don't want to do this
Yeah.
anymore.
Poor
And
thing.
director Jim really had to plead with him to stick with it because he really wanted for it. So I love that a director fought for the actor they wanted.
Man.
He thought he would be great. He was just like, just go to the gym, work out a little bit, like, please, please, please. And like, because
Aw.
they both stuck to their guns, he ended up getting the role.
Wow. That's
So
funny.
yeah, and they did also say for this character too, they wanted the whole cast. They said, which is such a nice statement to say, they wanted to be people to be beautiful and likable.
It's
But, like,
so nice.
It is this like teen. They knew that they were going to push the, like, look at these hot
Yeah,
kids
that's
getting murdered.
well, I mean, part of the whole thing is this idea of like it's our last summer of freedom.
yeah.
That's and you want them to be hot for their last summer of freedom,
Gotta be
right?
hot before they die.
Exactly.
You gotta die hot.
Leave a beautiful corpse.
There's a quote about that. Yeah, the beautiful corpse. We have Muse Watson as the fisherman, most known for From Dusk Till Dawn 2, Prison Break, and NCIS. This man has the most quotes I've ever read online, and they're big blocks. So you have to bear with me when I read some of his quotes because they are really good and they are really enlightening. So I thought it was kind of interesting. He talked about his character movements for the role of the fisherman. I think he's called like, what's the guy's name's like Bill or something like that. Billy, I don't know. That's probably not Billy Blue. That's the boat.
Yeah. That's the boat.
He said, for me, I put so much study into every move I made, which I think is funny because I don't feel like he moves a lot. I love when actors really go into this like in depth, and I'm like, did he?
Did you
That's
though?
fine. Good for her. When you see that fast walk, I practiced that. I practiced the hook. I worked my tail off on this character. One night I was conjuring the character and I got an idea that he was laughing at me. I immediately said, "What are you laughing at?" And he said, "You're trying to work yourself up to the point where you can kill somebody. I'm psychotic. It's like drinking a cup of coffee to me. It ain't nothing," which I think is really interesting. That's why I think he put he has the Michael Myers thing.
That's true.
Where he's not going to run after you.
Yeah.
He's not going to do all this stuff. He's like, "No, I'll get you.
Yeah.
I'll get you. I know where you live. I know where you go. I know all of your movements."
That
So I do think there's
calm
something
pursuit is
which is more
it's much
terrifying.
scarier. Yeah.
I don't
'Cause
like that.
It's much more like a nightmare.
Yeah.
That sense of like I don't even have to.
That's how I
run to
chase
catch you.
Trav. I just slow walk. I go, "I'm gonna get you," and then he walks, like he runs, and I'm just walking behind. I'm like, I know where you're going. I want to get
The
you.
like tiny little smile he's got right now.
I'm so mean. I think it's okay. I'll catch up.
I'll get you.
You know what
yeah.
I mean? And so
You're not gonna escape.
Trav, thoughts, feelings, terrifying. So
Horrors.
he goes on to say, "And I made one of the best acting decisions I've made in my life until then. Instead of me becoming a psycho, why don't I just walk out there and do nothing? Because
Love
I'd be
it.
reflecting this guy's feelings. That killing somebody didn't mean nothing. So I walked on a set, I'd perform this guy, and the look on my face was like having a cup of coffee."
That's much
Yeah.
scarier.
Yeah.
Much scarier.
He also talked about meeting Sarah Michelle Gellar and Jennifer Love Hewitt for the first time. Because again,
Aw.
you have this like baby teen cast, and then here's like this, this dude. He said, "The first thing I remember about meeting Sarah Michelle Gellar is we went on long walks down the beach together. I was kind of like
How
her new
romantic.
uncle. We walked and talked, and it was great." And then
Aw.
when he met Jennifer Love Hewitt, she had just gone one to those places where you make like pottery and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And she made him a set gift for him to keep like in his little
That's
like
so
area getting ready every day. And I'm
cute.
like, what an angel. She was
That's
probably
so
so
sweet.
excited. And she's like, "Gifts for
Yeah.
everybody."
And she's
Ugh.
18.
Ugh.
She's sitting at her pottery wheel. That's so sweet.
Yeah, just making gifts for everybody.
Aw.
Another fun casting note
Mhm.
is Melissa Joan Hart, which I've been doing a Sabrina the Teenage Witch rewatch.
Amazing.
Was actually had actually turned down the role of Julie, so Jennifer Love Hewitt's character,
Mhm.
because she thought it was just another ripoff of Scream. So again, just there's a common theme throughout my
Mhm.
entire notes that's going back to Scream. Which like she wasn't wrong, kind of, but I do think they're like entirely different tones and entirely different directions. And I think it's just because we had this hit that had all these teens written by the same guy that wrote this a year later.
I also think it's like putting this up against Sleepaway Camp, which is before Scream was ever made, is a good reminder that like it's a subgenre.
Yeah.
There are going to be certain things that are shared in common within that subgenre of teen slasher.
Yeah. Like if you rip things apart, like if you rip the flesh off of everything, and you're
Yeah.
left with a skeleton. There's only so many skeletons. It's
Right.
the flesh that goes on them.
Again, especially within the horror genre, which is such a codified genre.
Yeah.
It's like it's about the different ways you approach hitting those same beats.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many. There's endless like
Mhm.
snowflakes at
Yes,
that point.
endless variations.
So
Mhm.
agreed. But I just thought it was really funny that she was up because like what again, love Melissa Joan Hart.
Oh,
but
absolutely. But
I don't know if she could have
not
acted
right.
this.
Yeah. would not have
peace and love.
worked. Yeah.
So how did the story become an adaptation? Like I said, it was based off source material. It was done by Kevin Williamson, who did Scream. And he actually adapted this script in the early to mid 90s. So he had this kind of sitting there for a little bit. He shopped around with studios. They all said no, since at the time, like, slasher movies really were like dead. When we always say like Scream was kind of that resurgence.
Yeah.
So he kind of put it on a shelf. Obviously, Scream came out. Then he pitched it again. Columbia Pictures was like, give it to us. They wanted to capitalize on everything. So.
I'm sure particularly, not even just because Scream was successful, but because now his name is attached to it.
Yeah. Well, again, they tried to use it.
Yeah.
They were like, we got a plan. Oh, we got sued.
If only. Yeah.
Whoops. So some differences between script to screen, aside from the characters' names and the teens hitting something with their car, hitting someone, something. The plot is almost completely different. Again, like I said, no one dies in the book, so all of those things had to be added in. And so it kind of just took, again, like we said, the concept from a skeleton and he fleshed it out. So even Max's murder wasn't added, which I thought was really interesting, until they did reshoots.
Wow.
So they tested it with a test audience, and there were no stakes in the movie at the time, because you got to think of Max's. So Max is the one that gets the fish hook in the jaw within the little like crab hut. That's like the first time we see someone die.
Yeah.
And so if that wouldn't have happened, like, that's where like that supernatural could come in. Is like, is he really here? Is it like, is there any stakes? So
well, and it also, I'd written down in my notes that even with that death happening there, that happens at like 38 minutes into the movie, which is pretty late for a slasher movie to get your first kill.
Yeah.
So
so like they were kind of leaning on the suspense thing. And realized like audience wanted just a little bit more, I think, especially coming off of Scream and all the things that we get in there.
Makes sense.
He also added some personal touches, as we love him for. It came from being inspired by his father, who was a commercial fisherman. Wow. And he actually changed the setting from the book in the script to the small fishing village, and made the villain like a hook-wielding fisherman because of his dad. So.
I did think it particularly watching it right after Jaws, felt like there were a lot of little Jaws callbacks in there as well.
I love a seaside town. I also think it's very like, again, the Dawson's Creek aspect of it. It's just like a little, like, there's something about it that's, those towns seem so like cozy. And you want to go visit, and again, you just want to, like, I don't know, they have those, they're the ones that have like the pageants and all that stuff. So it just, I couldn't imagine this. I think we said it too, like, not taking place in this like generic California town,
right?
You know, where it easily could have,
and
but it wouldn't have been
much less effective.
Yeah. I feel like everyone knows each other. It's such a small town, and it's you know, the impact of this person being killed would obviously be news and whatever. So.
But also even particularly setting it around a 4th of July parade in a seaside town. It's like a direct Jaws.
Yeah. I had to, I didn't pull any of those, but again, knowing Kevin Williams, I'm sure he was just like, this is my vibe. The man with the hook thing too. I just love that he added that aspect to it too. Again, that's a story I don't know if you grew up with, but like I grew up with that tale. And so like when I got my license and we would like go drive and like park in Michigan, which was like heavily wooded, it was always like,
the hook
is that going to be the
Oh,
and I love like scary stories to tell in the dark, which we have at BC Books. New covers, which I don't love, but the stories are the same. But it gives me like reading those. So I love.
There's also like so many little Candyman callbacks at the beginning where there's the jokes about like, because Candyman there's also not only the hook but all the discussion of like, is it urban legend or not? And there's like a little bit in the dialogue about like, oh, it's the urban legend.
Yeah, so I love that they get like meta in that sense, and they directly reference this thing that then it completely follows that.
Right, because Candyman was, I think, 3 years before this, so like close enough that it would be very common in people's memory. Yeah, close in people's memory.
Kevin Williamson also said, quote, basically, like to that point, basically what I was doing was I was setting the framework to say, all right, audience, that's the legend. Now here's a new one.
I like it.
So it's yes, and.
A very smart screenwriter.
Oh my God. I would love to sit with him for a second.
He seems like a fun dude.
I feel like at least in interviews, it doesn't seem like he has like an ego about anything too. He's just like, I think too, it was him, he's quoted, or like one of his quotes on his IMDb is like, I'm not a real writer, I'm a screenwriter. And I kind of love that too, because
I
he's like, don't
love
give me
that.
all this credit. Like, I
Yeah.
just write for the screen. Like,
That's
it's
so funny.
I'm pretty sure it's him.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I
that
know. I want to give him a big hug.
yeah,
Hopefully,
I'm so
hopefully he's one
so
of the good Hollywood
charmed.
ones. I
Yeah.
hope. I hope. I haven't seen anything bad from things that I've come across. Um, Director Jim kind of added to that point too. The joy of this film for me as a filmmaker was in taking the elements that we've seen before and saying to the audience, here's something you've seen before, knowing that they're saying we've seen this before, but still get them to jump. Which, fuck, I jump a lot in this. I feel like that's where we don't need the blood as much, because the jump
Yeah.
scares are really, really good.
And this is a very jump scare forward type of horror.
Oh, extremely. And
Yeah.
again, very 90s in that. I feel like
Yeah.
Scream ends up doing that too.
Oh,
It
yeah,
has
for
that
sure.
too. He also added that he felt the screenplay did not resemble a slasher horror movie, and that he saw it simply rather as a good story with a morality tale embedded within it. And they talk about that a lot in some of the behind the scenes,
Interesting.
is that it's this crime and punishment story more than anything, which I think is, again, coming off a Scream with this meta and then kind of jumping into this one, and they're kind of adding a lot of meat underneath it, and not just being like, oh, it's just a jump scare horror movie.
Yeah. One of the notes that I wrote down after finishing watching both of our movies was that it felt like we accidentally created a pairing that's very much about guilt and shame, where like
We totally planned those. We're totally thinking about this all the time.
well, because yours is it's so
Yeah.
much about guilt,
Oh my
and
gosh. Yeah.
Sleepaway Camp is so much about shame, about
Mhm.
like
Oh.
it's not that you've done something wrong, it's
Yeah.
that you are struggling within yourself
Yeah.
and within the relationship between the self and the
Yeah.
outside world.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of
and-
almost, your reaction to the thing that almost happened to you.
Exactly. And so like in the same way that we've
Oh.
talked about like sad horror and like different
Yeah.
flavors
Oh
of
my God,
horror,
these
like guilt
totally
and shame.
are.
Feels yeah. I don't
No
know.
way. Yeah, it's totally just like the characters reacting to this thing that happened to them. Like, they didn't want to hit this person, but they did
Right.
they made a choice, at least in this one, to they could have reacted some way. And they
They
in my
make a
opinion,
choice.
yeah, they made a choice.
Yeah, they made a choice. Choices were made.
Yeah. So to that point, there's an article from Digital Spy. I don't know what that is. Director Jim is saying he wasn't particularly interested in making a horror film. And to your point about the guilt and shame, he said the core dilemma of what would I do if this happened to me that spoke to a young audience that's about to embark on their adult life, go to university, college, and if you made this mistake and fucked up, what would you do? Would you bury the secret? And so he said the audience got it, and that's exactly what kind of like hooked them into, which brings me to my personal experience. I've not hit anybody. Like, just
My God.
I have the biggest fear, especially here where it's pitch black on roads in New Mexico.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. If you have not been to New Mexico, just driving casually from one place to another, if you're not on a main road, it is black.
Dude.
You can't see anything. And my fear, and especially like with people like drinking, whatever, I'm like, if I accidentally hit someone, what the that person making a dumb choice could send me to jail for like manslaughter.
Yes. Quick little story.
Yeah.
One of the scariest things that has ever happened to me in New Mexico was only like 3 months ago or so. I was driving back home to Chimayao. I live like a half hour north of town. Driving along the highway, there's like the intersection.
I wouldn't get too specific.
I'm not gonna reveal anything about like where I live.
Get creeps.
But there's like a long highway and then an intersection at Powake, and it's the first light after like 20 minutes of driving.
Yeah.
And right as I was
I know
like approaching that light, and it's
because
like
it sometimes feel like also going up there, it's like all of a sudden you're on the highway and then you're like there's stoplights out of nowhere too,
and you're not expecting it. All of us, it's like 11:30 at night. Somebody runs into the road. And it's the highway. I'm going like 65 miles an hour.
Oh God.
And just stands there. And I'm like,
that's terrifying on like 8,000 levels.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what this person might be having a crisis. I don't know. And so I drove up ahead, pulled over, and like called like a non-emergency helpline to be like,
there's
I think somebody's having a crisis. Somebody please help. But like,
Imagine if you
literally, like, if I hadn't reacted, like, a half second faster, like, that could change your whole
Oh, yeah,
life.
yeah.
Like,
It's a terrifying
yeah.
concept. So, like, this is such, especially again, like teens, you're learning to drive, you're finally like going to hang out with your friends, you're gonna go to college where like you're responsible for your own life. And
the
the thought
first
of you
time.
accidentally hit somebody
Destroy
and make a
everything.
stupid,
Yeah.
which we do, we make stupid fucking mistakes when we're that age. And
Yeah.
it's just like, but that, and so like their panic and the drunk, I just, it's so real.
Yeah.
And I love that they went into this being like, that's the core of this story. And then everything that happens, you know, then here's this other layer of this legend.
Yeah.
Here's this other layer of this just like fucked up dude, you know?
Exactly.
So, but yeah,
It's
that's
so
so
scary,
terrifying
yeah.
that you actually, that's like my worst fear.
Well, and it was like this very like northern New Mexico, like, did this actually happen? Did I see
Skinwalker?
Well, because they were dressed in all white.
Ew.
And I was like, what's happening?
Oh God, they were
Yeah.
probably hoping you pulled off and you were gonna get pulled into a cult.
Well, I
That's
don't
the
know
start
what
of a horror
happened.
movie right
Yeah.
there. Write that down. Write that down. No one steal it. No one steal the idea. It's Siena's.
Now that we've put it live on air, I'm claiming
Yeah,
this.
it's Siena's.
So anyway, little horror real life tidbit there for you.
That's terrifying.
Nothing
Ugh.
bad happened. Everybody was fine.
Yeah,
But
me and Siena did not kill anybody. Let's get that clear. Anyways,
yet.
we'll move on. Yeah. So production facts. We'll kind of breeze through some of these. This film was shot in 50 days, which I found
That's
very
a long time.
I know. I felt like it was a really long
Wow.
time. They did seem to have a lot of locations. I do feel like there were a lot of like elements. They did reshoots, stuff like that. I don't know if
on a
that's
boat too.
counted. Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
as we know, is hard.
Yeah. So many boat movies. we've
So
done.
many boat movies.
So, principal photography began on March 31st, 1997, and took place over 10 weeks throughout spring and early summer. They spent about 7 weeks of the 10-week shoot at night,
Oh wow.
which director Jim said was difficult for the cast and crew and also created a commotion in the small town that they were in.
I can imagine.
This big production comes in with these people that everyone knows, and it's just like they're only shooting at night. So I'm sure that people, again, I love that they shot in a small town, and the small town got to experience this like weird thing that happened.
That's
They shot in 2 different places. So they shot in some coastal areas in Sonoma County, California, that's kind of stood in place for North Carolina, and then they also shot in North Carolina as well. One of the producers called North Carolina the flattest state they'd ever the flattest state, and they needed more curvy and dangerous looking roads. So that's why they moved things to Southern California, because there were some dangerous
you
roads.
need that blind curve there for sure.
They shot in a bunch of really cool places that like existed in the town, which I love. One of which I'm really bummed closed in 2023, but up until 2019 it had looked the same it did in the film, was the department store that at the end we see.
I loved that location.
So did they. So they fell in love with it, and they actually like created that whole scene around that location specifically because they loved it so much.
There was something about it that felt like
It gave me like Twilight Zone.
I think, you know what, this is something that I've ranted about before, but I think part of it is that so often when you have horror movies that are shot too much on sets, the layout of the spaces feels too logical. And in reality, spaces aren't really like, we don't build buildings in
that's
the
why,
most
like,
logical ways.
Yeah, and her running through that, you're like, where did she go?
It feels realistically cluttered and spatially confusing in a way that you don't always get when it's a space constructed for the
Built
camera.
for that. Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah, they did pretty much every location you see was a real location. For them, they shot at Duke University, Southport, which is in North Carolina, Southport Dasher Memorial Hospital. Julie's house was existing. They did, I believe. The only thing they kind of configured was the alleyway after she runs out. But they used the same alleyway and they just dressed it 4 separate times. So it's like when she turns the corner, it's still the same alleyway, which I love that they did that.
Love those little bits of movie
Yeah.
magic.
So now I'm going to watch it back and be like, that's just the same thing over and over again. And here's, okay, so we're going to get into my little reference Dawson's Creek tidbit. So I'm sure everyone's seen this, or now that you know that I said Dawson's Creek, Dawson's Beach was they were going to Dawson's Beach
God
so on the
damn
nose.
it.
They were like, we can't call it
God
Creek.
damn it.
But so it was a direct reference to Kevin Williamson writing for Dawson's Creek. And then also the rocky roads surrounding like the Dawson's Beach where Julie Ray and the rest of them kind of have their hit and run was the same mountainous road location used for the 1963 Alfred Hitchcock classic The Birds. Is that cool?
No way.
I love The
I do
Birds.
too. I really want to cover it.
Oh my god, yeah.
sometime.
As I think it was when I was in junior high, I would rent it at Blockbuster and make all my friends watch it at sleepovers
Oh
over
my
and over.
God, of course you
I
did.
was so obsessed. That and Psycho. I was just like, we need to watch
You
this.
and me both,
And they were like,
baby.
okay, Al, we've watched this like 4 times
We
since
would
I've
have
been here.
such good
Yeah.
friends
Stop
at that age.
Oh yeah, probably. But then I was
Yeah.
also watching like Man of the Board with
I've
Carrot
never
Top.
heard of that.
It's a
Oh.
Carrot Top movie.
Okay, fair enough.
The comedian. It's not great, but it's also the best thing ever. So, and Clifford with Martin Short playing an 8-year-old.
Oh my God, yes.
My tastes varied back then too.
Eclectic.
Yeah, super eclectic. I'm trying to get through because I know I want to leave you time because I know you have a lot. So
I feel like I've talked so much during your chunk this episode. I'm so sorry.
it's easy to like jump in when the other
There's so
person
much
goes
to
first. It's
talk
easy to like
about.
add stuff to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just to talk briefly kind of about like the colors and like the bloodiness of this that I was
Yes.
teasing earlier. The cinematographer kind of talked about how they wanted it to. They had a lot of like blues and grays and stuff in it. They didn't get too much into it, but I think it kind of like adds to this the way they cast it and wanted like the average and likable or beautiful and likable. The space in the film really felt like warm and familiar, I think. So I feel like the color palette really played. And again, it's when you see that color palette too with a horror movie, you expect to then have it because the blood could stand out, but
Right.
they don't really have a lot of
That's a really good point. Because there is one of the notes that I made was there are these couple of things that now strike me as period details that at the time were just things in the environment. But like one
Yeah.
of the ones that I wrote down was the ribbons tying the canopy around Julie's bed to the bedposts. Like
I had
just
one of those.
little things like that I
Yeah.
was like, that puts me so back in that time.
Yeah.
That
Or the obscenely burnt orange, like the whole inside of her house was that
Yeah.
burnt orange, like I
that
forget
color.
that technique.
Yeah.
But remember, my mom had it too. You would take like a sponge. It was like that
Yeah.
sponged effect. Oh my god, I was
Mhm.
like, this is such a 90s house for that
Yep.
reason.
Yeah. There were little pieces like that just felt so, like, I guess partially because of when we both grew up, like
Yeah.
reminders of childhood.
Yeah.
But,
Although I do think, and tell me if you felt this way too, but it didn't. Again, it has those nods to it, but I didn't feel like it was a. How do you say? You say it's like a time capsule, not a. What do you call it when? I feel like you've said this
like
before.
a period film.
Yeah. I don't feel like I don't feel like I watched the film and I'm like, it's so 90s. Like I feel like that
like
exact
there's
film
like a
could be.
timelessness. to
Yeah.
it.
Because even without the cell phone aspect of it, I almost don't even notice that. And I feel like we're gonna get in a time because I know a lot of like the younger generation are going back to flip phones and they don't want internet in their phone. And I wonder if we're gonna get in this period of horror that we're gonna go back to like kids not having cell phones in them, but it's gonna be of 2025.
Oh, I love.
You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I don't get cell service because this phone only has whatever.
I
Because
love
it's just like trying to
that.
like.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of generations are trying to like check out of the internet so much. So I'm so curious
so
to see if we get this
interesting.
time where.
As a screenwriter, I hope we do because
Yeah.
cell phones are very inconvenient plot wise.
I know,
They're
but I think you
horrible.
could start to write that like younger generations are really moving away from. Well, some I don't know everywhere, but yeah. So looking out for it.
Genius.
And again, like I said, this was the color scheme and the blood was a conscious choice. They really didn't want to lean into the gore, and they actually really like fought. Director Jim really fought against having the blood on screen. And some of the compromises they made was when the sister gets cut, we see that blood splatter.
Yeah.
They had to go back and reshoot that because he really didn't want it at first, and they were kind of having this argument of like, well, it technically is
Wow.
medically possible to not have blood, but like the audience wants to see it, so they really kind of like pared down. And I find it so
Wow.
fascinating that it was
Such an unusual
a really
approach.
conscious choice, but it doesn't matter. I feel like this
Yeah.
movie actually, it's like that hook him just dragging her across the floor too. I'm just
That
like,
was a
it's still
great
so
shot.
gruesome.
That was a
Also
great
an easy way
shot.
to carry a body.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
was
like a
thinking
hook
very
was very
convenient.
effective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It seems like it would be a good way to distribute the weight. you
yeah,
know?
yeah. So some on-set scares. There were a couple of them. One of them being when Johnny Galecki plays Max, the one who gets the hook in the crab. So when Jennifer Love Hewitt went to set that day and they opened the trunk and they see him in there with the crabs crawling out, it was obviously not him. That was a sculpt of his head. Apparently it scared her so much that they shut down the production.
Oh my
and they had to
God.
give her a call and be like, it's okay, I'm alive. That was just like a cast of my head. It's fine.
Jennifer, what do you think
18,
this
she's a
is?
baby, and she didn't really like horror. You have to keep that in mind. She didn't really like horror. She was 18. That was her like childhood friend she saw dead.
Okay, that's
She's
fair.
too. I think she's too. Her name's Jennifer Love Hewitt. If you have the middle name Love, you are innocent. I am sorry. Another one we have is Muse, who plays the fisherman. He said to him playing like the dead body in the road thing, he said he acted it so, to kind of brief it, I have a quote, but he said that he played it so well, and he also said, in my old age I could be really good at being still and I'm a little cold all the time.
Oh my
But he
God.
played it so well that the medics actually kind of like went over there.
We're like,
is he
"Are
okay?
you-"
Bro, are you good? And he said, no, buddy, I'm preparing for the shoot.
Oh my God. He's like, no, I'm just in a meditative death
Yeah.
trance.
Yeah, they thought he was, they asked if he needed a medic because he was also like shaking too. So yeah. So method in a good way. And the last kind of production note I have is the ending scene we see isn't actually the original ending that they had shot.
Interesting.
The original ending, Julie is chatting with Ray online. Hey, new to AIM. And gets the pool party invitation, which we then see carried through in the ending that we see, because she gets that letter. And then another person starts the chat and starts typing in, I still know. And then the killer jumps out at her through the screen, I guess. I don't know. Or behind her.
Okay, glad they didn't do that. That's dumb.
But they did use it for the teaser trailer for the sequel, which I think is cool, because I feel like also people were more into like AIM and like online chatting then too. So I feel like that would have felt that's where it would have felt like, ew, this is the 90s.
Yeah.
I love that she goes into, like, she's in college, and it kind of kicks off where the next one starts up. So
well, and it's like the way the technology plays in this movie, there are little touches of it, but it feels almost like technology is creeping in the same way that they're losing their innocence. It's like they've grown up without things like AIM, and in this kind of bubble. I actually, I watched the trailer for it on YouTube first.
Oh
before,
shit! Oh my God!
And I was reading through some of the comments, and people were talking about like growing up at that period and being like, I miss this experience of growing up at a time without these things, when this was just starting to creep in, and it feels like there's like this kind of nice, neat little parallel between them losing their innocence and them gaining the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think I don't think I've ever seen the second one, so I'm curious to know like how much that plays.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Into the second one. I might watch it now. Yeah, it has everyone who's alive is in the new cast, and I think like the roommate we see in the end is also in.
Oh, interesting.
In the new one. So, lastly, we get into critics' reviews. I know what you did. Where do I start? With I know what you did last summer being like mostly a straight up like modern update of the slasher, rather than the deconstruction of Scream.
Right.
Many critics actually and fans felt it was a huge step down for Williamson, which I'm like, what a standard to hold someone to. And so they weren't like super excited about it, but I'm like, I could get into a whole rant about like why did it need to be the same, because they also would have gotten critiqued.
Right. It's not trying to
like
do
Scream.
the same thing.
Yeah. Why would a writer want to do that?
He just did Scream.
Yeah.
He's
and
not
he was
gonna
so
try and write
excited to do
another
this
Scream.
new thing that has like this morality concept to it. And it's like, what a cool film to also do this meta thing before and then have this morality theme in this other one. They're so uniquely their own, and so I hate there was a comparison.
Like this feels to me much more like it's playing with camp, like in a straight Susan Sontag way instead of where Scream, like it's much more poking fun at the genre.
Yeah, it's like looking down at itself and making commentary on it. Yeah. So
and it doesn't need to be meta to be good.
I know. I don't
There's
know why
also
people
still a
hold
lot of
it.
meta
There's so
elements
much.
in this,
Yeah. But regardless of people saying that, I looked up the stats again for Scream. So this film made 125 million, and Scream made 173, and it was a budget of 15 million. This was a budget of 17 million. So like
pretty close.
They were right there next to each other, especially for being a year apart. And I think probably people trying to hold it to something or expecting something. I'm happy to see that it got the success.
Pretty fucking strong follow-up, all things considered.
And I still feel like this one doesn't get, I don't know, maybe it's just because I haven't paid attention to this community. I just haven't seen this one talked about as much as Scream, but I'm like, I feel like this one deserves, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I want to bump this one up because I had the best fucking time watching
it. It was a good time. What would you rate it?
4.
4?
I think. Yeah.
4. I would say like a 3 for me.
Do you want to know what Roger Ebert rated it? You know what our boy gave it?
What our boy give it?
He gave it a big old 1. He said, the internet said, although this film is not specifically included on Roger Ebert's most hated list, he rated it a 1. And I
That's
talked to it
incredible.
and said it is a tedious series of obligatory scenes in which nonsensical characters are murdered with a bloody hook.
Oh my god.
Yep, nailed it.
Yeah. And that's what we love about it, Roger.
Yeah.
What's your problem?
It's just that lore brought to 90s teen film.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I give it a 4. He's wrong.
Yeah.
He's also dead. So
Roger was wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
Roger was wrong sometimes. Yeah.
I just love bringing him as like our consistent thing. So anyways, that was I Know What You Did Last Summer. It is my new favorite. I will be watching this probably every year now because of it. So I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I had a good time.
Yeah, I was so curious. I was like, Siena can't not have a good time.
No, I had a great time.
It's so me coded though.
Absolutely. I knew you were gonna have a better time. But
yeah. Yay.
Yeah. No. So good.
So fun.
So good. Well, shall we take a?
Yeah, because I just hogged half of this. On that note,
we'll be right back.
I know how much you love stories of horror and gore. Meet our sponsor, Beasley Books, the independent bookstore owned by author George R.R. Martin in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Beasley specializes in autographed titles, rare editions, and speculative fiction, which includes sci-fi, fantasy, and of course, horror. You can find many authors whose adaptations we've covered at Beasley, including Stephen King, Clive Barker, and more, alongside the likes of Nick Cutter, Shirley Jackson, and Anne Rice. Visit the Santa Fe storefront Wednesday through Sunday at 418 Montezuma, or shop online anytime. I don't know why I'm Irish now, but you can find them at BeasleyBooks.com or on Instagram at BeasleyBooks418. And make sure you use code SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. Bye.
And we're back.
So Trav won't come on camera to report some news that we found out while we took a
Everybody
break.
bully Trav for refusing to
we
come
want to
on
get him on
camera.
track. Yeah, he hates it. I tried so hard. But just to talk again, we talked about it on in this is that we don't plan things and things. There's some weird manifestation around this podcast. That's okay. The fan's on. There's weird manifestation around this podcast that in the time that we took a little break and came back just now, Bloody Disgusting just posted a thing how there's going to be a I Know What You Did Last Summer legacy series that's in talks of coming out next year, and it has some big names in it,
some recurring cast.
Maybe
potentially Freddie Prinze Jr.
And Sarah Michelle Gellar might be doing
or in
some
talks, allegedly.
Not in talks.
People.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
I
want it to be the couple. I want it to be the couple. Boo. Boo.
Sarah, yeah, she is dead.
But I was thinking it's writing. You can't hear them. They're she's dead. Well, she could have helped write it. Everybody, you know what? Do you want a mic? Get over here. Yeah, he's shaking his head.
You had the
That's what I
opportunity.
thought.
You
That's what I
turned that
thought.
mic down.
You get over there. Warren, turn him down. He's too loud in my ear. But there's
Turn the
like
voices in our heads down,
Please.
please. They're screaming.
But yeah, I just think that's so weird that we constantly. That's why you see us post stuff after because we're kind of like internally like, oh, we didn't plan this, but that worked
But look
out
at
that
that.
way. So even anniversaries of stuff, I didn't plan to do. Was it Lake Placid? I did it on the day, and I was like, well, okay,
we had no idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So
but anyway,
there we are again.
Yeah,
At
little
it
news for
again.
you. Bloody
Yep.
disgusting. Love them.
So
Here we are. We're going to
Sleepaway
camp. Got my bag packed.
Oh my God, Al.
Ready to go.
I'm
Ready to sleep
so glad that this
We
gave
did
me
this.
the chance to watch this movie.
Have you seen it before?
No.
Any of
First
them?
time, none of them. Also didn't even know what the twist was until I started researching it.
I forgot about
It
the
was
twist.
impossible to read about this movie without reading
yeah,
what the
it's
twist.
a-
Like
yeah,
it's an
yeah.
essential part of the discussion around
Yeah.
this movie
Oh,
for
absolutely.
good reason, obviously.
Absolutely.
But
I'd watched a bunch of these. I forget how many there are, but I've seen a
Oh.
few.
I have
Second
I
is
have
my
notes.
favorite.
I believe there are 4.
Okay,
total.
but I've seen all 4 at some point.
Wow.
I did a marathon years and years and years ago.
Well,
Um,
tell me about your first watch experience.
I
if you
think it's just I
remember
saw. I think I was a Tumblr addict at the time. Tumblr.com.
the good old days.
The
The
good
bad
old
old
days.
days.
They're the good ones. And I just saw, again, being a horror fan, I just saw things pop up. It's obviously like a conversation. And I finally sat down one like summer day and just like binged them all. And then they became at that point too, I like bullied everyone around me to watch them because I was just like, it's just tits and gore and it's so good.
Tits and gore.
Yeah.
You're
And I feel
not
like I
wrong.
always am just like slutty little shorts. and-
Yes.
yeah.
Some
So-
slutty men in this movie in particular.
I know I
That's-
was gonna say my watch notes definitely have
there's a
just
lot
a lot about sluttiness.
a lot more male skin than female in this movie,
so
which
much.
is
It's so nice to see.
and like obviously a big part of like what the film is. There's
The ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was gonna say if you haven't watched Sleepaway Camp, I would suggest watching it before this discussion because you don't want to ruin. I think unlike I know what you did that summer and a lot of the films we talk about, where it's like the ride, the journey of it. This is really paid off by the
This
ending.
really
so I would
is a movie
say,
that builds up to the reveal.
Yeah.
And I will say I am somebody who always says I do not mind spoilers. I
Yeah.
love going into a movie knowing what's going to happen. I will
oh, you
say
do?
I
won't
do
even watch
feel
the
like
trailer.
I love to.
I remember you sent me, you were sending me like long legs trailers. I was like,
Yeah,
no, and
you
you
were
were like,
like,
oh my God, I'm
"Don't."
sorry. And I'm like, I don't want to know anything. I don't want to know.
I like mentioned that there's an FBI agent and you
And
were
I was
like,
like, I
"How
didn't even
dare
know."
you?"
I can't
I
know
was like, "That's
anything
not
about
even a
films. I know.
twist.
I can't know anything about films going in because I just don't like how trailers have become. I think
Yeah,
we're getting
that's
away
fair.
from it now, but I like if I know I'm gonna like a film, I know a director, actor, the plot, whatever. I go
You
in
want to go in
completely
blind. I
blind.
totally get it.
So
I'm usually not this way. I would say this is the one and only film we've discussed on the podcast so far that I'm going to say, spoiler warning here.
yeah.
Do not listen farther unless you have watched this movie.
Yeah. Or if you want to watch
if
it,
you-
yeah.
if you
I would
plan on
say.
watching it,
So
If you don't plan on watching it, maybe change your mind. I think you're wrong. Like this,
yeah, it's worth it.
It's worth it. It's also better than I expected it to be. Like I was
Okay.
expecting it to be like an interesting artifact of its time that other movies reference that like is important in the horror movie canon. I wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily expecting it to be good.
Yeah.
And there are several parts of the movie that don't necessarily work, but
Yep.
I think that it's just so rich. There's so much going on. Like it's such
Yeah, this
a
one has a lot
th-
happening.
there's a lot happening, and then obviously this is going to be a film theory rant corner heavy episode.
I
think
figured.
told you that beforehand.
Yeah.
Not because there's not a whole lot of fun behind the scenes tidbits, just because there's so much to dig into film
Yeah.
theory wise. But so let's get the non-theory out of the way first.
Yeah, when did this come out really quickly?
It came out in 83.
83.
shot in-
Okay, that's what I thought. 83.
Shot in 82, directed by Robert Hiltzik. So, director Robert is what we're going to go with.
Doesn't roll off the tongue like
director
director
Robert, who has only directed this and the 2008 Return to Sleepaway Camp. So,
Whoa.
he's kind of a directorial one-hit wonder,
Okay.
essentially. Basically... Do we want to? How do we want to deal with the ending of this movie? Do we give it away now? What do we do? It's
Whenever you feel like it feels good for you.
uh,
Again, spoiler, last
yeah,
chance.
last
You've
chance.
been warned. I don't feel bad after this point.
Okay, Sleepaway Camp, your elevator pitch of the movie. It's a summer camp massacre being committed by a character that there's a lot of debate whether or not this character is a trans young girl or how we want to approach talking about Angela's gender, but it is an AMAB person who is being socialized female.
Yep.
So stars Mike Kellen in his final role as Mel. Fascinating character.
I'm not going to know anyone's name that you referenced. So you might have to describe what they were wearing.
He's the guy who runs the camp.
Okay. The old guy.
Yeah.
Old,
kind of like very clearly
golfer
Jewish
dude.
coded
Yeah.
guy. Yeah. Kind of seems like my Zadie.
Yeah.
He was also in Midnight Express, The Jazz
Oh.
Singer, The Last Porno Flick, which I just have to shout out because it's a great title. Actually died of lung cancer before this film was released and was apparently hiding that he was sick on set. And so
Oh, boy.
interesting.
Yikes.
So yeah, last screen performance for Mike Kellen.
Ooh, creepy.
Catherine Comey as Meg.
R.I.P.
She was on All My Children, a whole bunch of other TV shows, including NCIS LA, General Hospital. So she's kind of a soap star.
Yeah.
And she's the female camp counselor.
I noticed that a lot with like horror too. It's a lot of like there will be a lot of actors or like a lot of TV and then a horror.
That's again, it's a genre that gets ghettoized in the same way that TV does. So, and then Felissa Rose as Angela, who we love. She's
So good.
incredible. Not just because I think this is a brilliant performance, but because she has gone on to spend a lot of time talking about this character. She holds Angela very dear to her heart. And she has some really interesting, nuanced things to say about her. She was only 13 at the time that they shot this, which is
baby. Wild.
Fascinating. I think it's part of what is unique and memorable about this movie is that it's actually teens playing teens.
Oh, it's kind of refreshing to
See.
see.
Well, and it's there's a lot of good reasons why that doesn't normally happen. Usually, partially just because of workplace restrictions, under 18-year-olds can work fewer hours a day, and so it's cheaper to hire over 18 to play under. Also, when you've got material like this, there's a lot of
It's wild to see.
it's wild, and I think it's for a lot of reasons this movie could not be made today in the same
it
way.
would not.
Obviously, probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think being over 18 for this just feels right.
Would
'Cause
have
I think
been
your
wiser.
brain,
But Felissa Rose, and we're going to talk a little bit about her background, her childhood too, because she's just, my hot take is that this is a Felissa Rose's auteur movie more than it's the director's auteur. I think
amazing.
she is a huge part of why this movie is what it is.
Well, yeah, cons and stuff too. I don't know if you saw like last year or within this year that guy walking around with the mask of hers like at the end. It was so lifelike that it was just like on every horror blog, every horror Instagram, whatever.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
It's
interesting.
terrifying.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. She's a scream queen. She was in Terrifier 2, which I thought you would enjoy.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I don't recognize
that's Felissa
nobody.
Rose. And she also, because she was only 13 at the time she was in this, she was legally not able to watch this
it?
film in theaters when it was
Amazing.
released. Which I thought was fun.
I think she would have been horrified
I
watching
mean,
it. It's scary.
She's a regular on The Last Drive-In on Shudder, so she
Oh.
continues to participate in the horror community and talks a lot at horror now,
She
which I think
cons
is
a lot
just
too, which is cute.
super cool. She's also, thought you would enjoy this, produced a bunch of videos for Slayer.
Oh,
so she's
shit.
just a fascinating
That's
gal.
fun.
Yeah, I just think she's fucking badass.
Yeah, she's just fucking living her best life.
Jonathan Tiersten as Ricky, which, speaking of Slayer, Jonathan has appeared in a Slayer music video. He was in You Against
Buffy the
You.
Vampire Slayer.
Oh, if only. He's also done a lot of kind of exploitation-y stuff, including the incredibly named Toilet Zombie Baby Strikes Back.
Oh, it's my favorite movie. That's actually what we're covering for my birthday
For your birthday
podcast.
episode, yeah. New Halloween
I love
costume idea.
toilet babies.
Toilet Zombie Baby.
Oh yeah, zombies. I forgot. How could I forget?
Can't forget that. We have Christopher Collette as Paul. He was in the Manhattan Project, also the Stephen King miniseries, The Langoliers. Also did some voice direction for Sonic the Hedgehog and Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's a thing.
Oh, fun. Love a voice actor.
Then we have Karen Fields as Judy. As I mentioned, this and a short also named Judy, also about the character Judy, are the only things she's ever acted in.
Oh, really?
So
Yeah.
Judy is her character. She's Judy. That's it.
She is Judy. Judy is me.
Judy's me. Also, even though it's a smaller role, just had to take a second here for Robert Earl Jones as Ben, who is James Earl Jones's dad.
Oh.
Yeah. He's one of the camp workers in the kitchen at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Also just fascinating figure in Black film history. I got into this like weird deep dive on him. He worked with Langston Hughes during the Harlem Renaissance. He was in Francis Ford Coppola's The Cotton Club. He was a pro boxer, fought under the name of Battling Bill Stovall. I was just like,
wow, what a life.
Badass.
What lives?
Truly. Yeah.
Multiple lives.
Robert Earl Jones lived many lives.
Jeez.
So super cool guy.
Yeah. Wow.
And then Thomas E. Vandell as Mike, the only bad kid who survives, and just referenced him because he later goes on to a career, A, as a music executive, but also B, as the producer of Return to Sleepaway Camp, which is the only one of the films in the franchise directed by the director of the original.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the last
full
installment
circle.
where people come back. Writing opens with a dedication to mom, a doer, quote unquote, which is... It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Found out why. It's actually so this film, I did something I usually don't do before our episodes, which is I listened to another podcast talk about this.
Oh yeah. Cause we really like to not copy paste.
I try to keep my mind as blank from how other podcasts have talked about this as possible. But as I was doing research, a bunch of people kept referencing the episode of How Did This Get Made on this film, and so I went and listened to that. And one of the things that they joke a lot about this opening with the a doer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, but there's got to be an explanation for this. I looked it up. It's actually kind of a sad story. His mom had passed away just before this film was released, and it was actually the money that he inherited from her that allowed him to produce this movie. So it's, even though it seems like you make a film like this that's so Freudian and you dedicate it to mom, quote unquote, a doer, it seems like you're kind of making a joke. It's actually genuinely like a very sweet, touching tribute. So just thought I should offer some clarification on that there.
Thanks, Mom. Because we got Sleepaway Camp movies.
We got Sleepaway Camp, which, like, again, I think this movie has no right to be as good as it is.
It's wild.
It's wild.
Yeah, this one was, I feel like I blur them all together. So I feel like I watched them in pairs.
Makes sense.
So it was nice to watch this one fresh by itself.
So good. Well, and it also has different cast than many of the sequels. Felissa Rose doesn't come back until the 4th, I think, Return to Sleepaway Camp. And this was written... Director Robert got the idea for the beginning and the ending first, and then kind of filled in the middle, which is kind of how I write screenplays a lot of the time. So I related to that.
See, as someone who doesn't write, that's how I would do it, because that seems like, okay, if I get from this point to this point, what are the ways that I get there?
It's kind
that
of
seems right.
It's kind of like how people tell you that, like, if you're doing like a maze puzzle, it's easier if you start from the end of the maze and work your way backwards. It's similar.
Makes sense.
Similar idea. So this was shot from 5 weeks, from September to October of 82, which is part of why, as you can tell, all the trees are turning in this movie, even though it's set in the summertime.
I didn't fucking notice.
Everything's orange.
Oh, I didn't notice. Whoops.
Which is,
and my God.
They were trying to fight this the whole time too. They actually were going around spray painting plants green. Didn't work.
Yeah, no shit. Well, maybe it worked enough for me. Because I didn't notice. It wasn't something I was paying the most attention to.
For a movie called Sleepaway Camp, it opens on a shot of like all of the hills
be a
like
fall
golden
camp.
red. It's
It could we could go to camp in fall.
They're joking about how it's the summertime.
Well,
we did this as a summertime slashers pairing.
Global warming wasn't as much of a thing then. The leaves were probably, I always say, I have this like Mandela effect. I feel like leaves used to change in like August, and it used to be cold in fall. Like that used to be fall, like August. Like it just switched. And I don't know if I just made that up in my brain, grapes,
I mean,
or
you have been
So
living
maybe
in
they're
first
right.
LA and then New Mexico, so places
yeah, I
that
don't have like the best.
that
Yeah.
are warmer
leap
later.
is weird.
Yeah. Let's see. So it actually, they shot at the same camp in upstate New York where the director went as a little kid. So there's some
Yeah.
little Freudian layers going on there.
I was gonna say, have you ever been to a camp? Oh no, I went to camp, but mine's gonna be lame. I went to the same American Pie, you know, the camp, the Camp Blue Lake or whatever they went to, or that's the one I went to, whatever the name is, one or the other, the one I went to or the one in the movie. It was based off the same camp, and I went for band.
Oh,
Went to band camp.
of course you did.
Yeah.
Al. Of course you did.
Yep. So
I spent exactly 1 weekend at a Girl Scout camp in northern New Mexico that was very cute, and I was very scared of it. I was like, I feel
we
like
did
somebody's going to murder me here. So,
yeah, we did like little haunted walks. I know, and I
Mhm.
went like once when I was young. We did like a weekend camp with like our entire school. It was just like
Oh,
a weekend thing.
cute.
So I never
That's
went to
really
like
cute.
camp proper.
Yeah,
Always wanted
same.
to. Still do.
Same.
They have adult camps, but I don't like to socialize. I kind of just want to do all the crafts and have everyone leave me
Yeah.
alone.
Splice and Splatter summer camp.
Oh my god, I wish. None of us can
Imagine.
talk to each other. We all try to scare each other. We hire a fake murderer. And it's like a dinner. It's like a murder mystery dinner, but it's
Oh
a
my
weekend
God.
at camp.
I'm
Okay, that's
in. Genius.
the collective pause and gaping mouths we just had at each other. Okay, we're gonna
Look
start.
forward, just keep
GoFundMe
New
link in
business
the bio.
idea. I
That's
would
like
pay
it happened. That would fuck
so
so hard.
much money for that.
Oh, me too.
Oh my
Actually, me
God.
too.
I just
Oh,
got
fuck.
chills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, one day.
Okay, new business idea. Moving right
Yeah,
along.
sorry.
So, first time feature director, he'd
Yeah.
actually storyboarded out the whole thing beforehand,
Oh,
but
shit.
quickly got so off schedule that they had to throw out all the storyboards
Oh,
and
he
just
did
start
all-
from scratch.
Nothing makes me feel worse than like when you do that and you try and like prep yourself for all this stuff. You see me do it at work
Yeah.
all the time, and then just you're like, okay, never mind. That's not gonna.
That, we're
We're
throwing
not
that
gonna
out.
use that system anymore.
Although I will say, as a director, I feel like that's kind of the best way to go in is to have a complete plan that you're also completely willing to throw away. Like that's what because you need to be willing.
That's
to,
actually
there's going to be so much that changes on the day of that. Like if you hold too tight to those plans, you'll miss the
filmmaking,
good
baby.
stuff.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
So-
He was able to do that.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of, it tells you something about him as a director. We have some fun cast and crew tidbits.
Ooh.
For one, young Peter, which I feel weird even saying that. It's difficult to figure out how to talk about this character because again,
Peter.
Peter/Angela.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I forgot that was their name.
Yeah, this character before they move in with Aunt Martha.
Yeah.
Played by the older brother of Mike the Situation Sorrentino from the Jersey Shore. Yeah, that's who that child actor
No!
is. So just a fun little weird tidbit. Yeah, older Sorrentino brother.
I'm actually like
I wasn't expecting that to get you that hard.
love the Jersey Shore. Actually, during COVID, I made Trav watch it. And we used to
my
have
God.
Jers days,
Oh my God.
and we would take tequila shots. And I would watch it, and we had like the little like Govee lights. And when we were at a club, I would
Oh my
change it to the club
God.
setting. And we would dance. So I like have a hard
That's incredible.
You gotta beat the beat, baby. You gotta beat the beat. You wouldn't know if you didn't watch it, but that
Amazing.
actually might be my favorite fact of the whole movie.
There you go.
Right there.
So logging off the podcast now. That's all we got
I
for
think
you.
we're done. That was great.
So glad
So
you liked
GoFundMe
that.
link for the summer camp and the situation.
Horror summer camp.
Yeah,
So
we'll bring him.
some fun casting stories, which again, because this is a first time / kind of one hit wonder
Yeah,
director, he had
yeah.
some unusual approaches
Methods.
to casting.
Oh, no.
So two fun stories for for Jonathan Tiersten getting cast as Ricky, director Robert had him curse him out in the audition, and basically gave the role to the kid who cursed him out the best, which I love.
Yeah.
Worked well.
I would have won.
Yeah.
I would have won.
Oh,
I would have
not,
got hired.
Not surprising at all. The Angela auditions,
Yeah.
this fascinating, involved giving a blank stare while
Yeah.
pretending to eat a candy bar.
Oh, that's
Which
actually great.
I was
Like
like,
doing an activity, and
yeah.
I can disassociate like
I was like,
that.
that's a genius way to, because that scene where Angela like dissociating eating a candy bar,
Yeah.
it's so crucial to her character.
I was gonna say her ability to do that and do that
Yeah.
in every single take, and then just snap
Yeah.
out of it to talk to
Yeah.
what's his name, is so good. I was like, pop off, autistic queen.
Truly.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm her and the evil bitchy one.
Yes. I don't know about you,
Together.
but like watching this movie, I was like
Me at
feeling
summer
a
camp.
little traumatized because I was like, that is, if under some weird circumstances there's anybody listening to this who went to high school with me, which I hope there's not, there's a good chance
Oh,
there is.
God, yeah, I hope not too.
They will know that this is exactly what I was like in high school. I was that, like, my approach to other human beings up until like about age 19 was, if I don't have something very important to say, I will say nothing at all.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, same. I one of my theater friends, Max, like late after we kind of knew each other for a little bit, I had classes with him, and he was one of many people, but it stood out when he said it to me. He was like, you know, we used to have classes together, and we always used to talk about how we thought you were mute because I didn't talk.
Same.
I didn't raise my hand. I always sat in the back. I'm like, if I didn't know you, I was the
just wouldn't say
quietest
anything.
person you've ever met. And then if
Yeah.
I knew you,
Yeah,
this
same.
podcast is proof we could talk to each other.
Exactly.
But yeah, people thought I was mute, and certain people thought I was mute in high school.
I
if they didn't
tried
see
to
me talk.
say as little as possible.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't want to be perceived.
Yeah. Same.
At all. So yeah, I
100% same.
feel.
Yeah.
That's why I said if we do a summer camp, no one has to talk to each other.
Exactly.
We
Just
can wear
get
little
killed.
things. Don't talk to me. Yeah, we just all have to fight for our lives.
That sounds so
We just have to
fun.
run and scream.
Yes. Oh
Very
my god,
visceral.
I'm so in.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's so funny. Yeah, relate to her.
which is just again to say that performance that she gives is
So good.
incredible, and the physicality of it too.
That's why
the
it's so
awkwardness in
iconic.
her body. It's,
Yeah. Even if you don't know Sleepaway Camp or you've never seen them, like you are going to know her
Yes,
face and
yeah.
you're gonna know. Yeah.
So moving into the making of, obviously, as I said, actual kids. Almost all underage.
Yeah.
They sure did actually bully each other on set. They sure did actually.
Oh, they
have
look like little shits.
Oh,
A group
yeah.
of fucking little assholes. Yeah.
The actors playing the counselors actually had to like break up fights between them
Believe
at different
it.
points. They
This
had
is the documentary.
right. There were like a couple of on-set romances between some of them.
Because
so
they're like
it's-
actually, you got to think
Yeah.
they're actually, because being on a film set is like being at camp. So
Yeah,
they just
it
were
is.
kids at camp.
yeah, especially because this is all happening at the camp that the director was
Yeah.
a little kid at. Like, it's how are
Wild.
you not going to end up with that energy? And then I have just like a long series of
Holy shit.
tidbits. So
Oh,
each
cool.
of those is a
Sick.
tid. So tidbit.
Like
to
you're highlighting that you're
Yes.
doing now.
Where could I have gotten this
I
from?
have no idea. Definitely.
So to film the death by bees scene,
Oh,
they had it's so good.
favorite
Also, very clearly, like this walked so Candyman could run.
yeah.
They had a dummy of Billy that they then smeared with a sugar mixture to make the bees attack it. Which, what this tells me is, even on the tiny budget that this film had, they were using actual bees, which I think is pretty
That's,
cool.
like weirdly cheaper.
Yeah.
I
I guess
In the 90s,
so.
we had more bees then.
Right? Bees are cheap.
Yeah, bees are cheap.
Bees
They're
were
free,
cheap.
actually. Just slap
Free-
some honey on it.
A freebie, would you say?
A freebie. Shut up.
I'm gonna
Go sit down. Let's take a break. That death got me the most
bee
because one of the
death?
bees almost like, ugh, it's gonna make me throw up. I don't even feel like I was like creeped out by those little pustules, those holes, and one of them looked like it was gonna crawl in one. Made me sick. Kind of made me sick, and I was like, ooh, I don't know why that almost got me.
That the boiling death also, or didn't that character doesn't die, but the
Oh,
boiling at the beginning.
I also love that the paramedics are like, "What's the prognosis? Ah, he's burned." It's like no shit, or something like that.
You don't
They,
say,
Yeah, they
doctor.
like obviously state what happens. People, oh, what's the matter with him? Oh, he's burned. It's like shit. You all wrapped him up already anyways.
What's the matter with him? Oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
Like, thanks.
He's not breathing. Oh, it's the death.
It's like the Portlandia
Yeah,
meme you posted the other day. It's so hot. It's the heat. He's not breathing. It's the death. Yeah. So speaking of the burn scene for Artie's burn, kind of similar story to the X death that we talked about a couple episodes ago. They had the actor on a fake floor and pumped liquid gelatin up from underneath the blisters to make them seem like they're pulsing. So I thought you'd enjoy that. Glad
That's
you
fun,
liked
but
that.
that's gross. I love it.
I'm sure you've probably heard before that the climax scene, that reveal.
Yeah.
They had
I actually don't know any behind the scenes of this.
nothing.
I'm
That's so
blank slate in
interesting.
here. You're filling in.
I'm so glad. So it's a mask, obviously. They cast from Felissa Rose's face, put this on a college student who himself had to apparently get very drunk before doing this, which I found some. Yeah, I have some.
They should just cast someone
questions.
that's like full,
That's comfortable,
or a porn star,
right?
That's very comfortable being nude. You know what I mean?
It's also so obviously like the body of like a fully grown 19-year-old. That's like.
Yeah.
Which,
I'm glad
like,
it was an
is a
of
good
age
thing,
person because I was
but-
like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Again, with the
it's-
younger kids, I was like, oh.
the lines get very blurry of like
Still
what's
blurry.
yeah, but there were several very cheesy like early 2000s articles about this that I saw that
no.
were making jokes about like, well, I guess he got plastered for that one because the face is a plaster cast.
Stop
so
it. That's
thought you'd enjoy
stupid.
that. Yeah.
I love it.
Tidbit. Kirsten, who plays Ricky, was also the stand-in for Angela during all of the murders because it was in Felissa Rose's contract that she didn't want to actually perform any of the murders. This was part
Oh.
of
This
because
is
again
the
she's 13. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So this
great.
part of how she felt comfortable doing it was there's going to be a stand-in for all of the actual killing people.
That's
which
awesome. I'm glad that they, again, for the time, for how they cast,
It's
good.
could have been a lot worse.
Yeah. I like how they were
Um,
like, okay.
Yeah, so love that they respected her boundaries on that. Also reminded me of the story of Argento being the hands for Deep Red. That
It's
like,
I want to do it.
well, because part of it was that they wanted the veins to be more prominent on the hands. So they had,
Oh, to look a little bit more like masculine. Is that
yeah, so
why?
they had the guy who's playing her love interest do
Oh,
those. So that's who it is.
Cute. Okay.
Yeah, which I
He
think
was great too.
and they had a little like puppy dog romance on
Stop.
set,
That's
which
so
I thought
cute.
was kind of cute. So yeah, fun stories. There were also multiple problems shooting the big canoe flip death scene.
Oh yeah.
For one
imagine.
thing, the actress playing Leslie was sick with mono at the time, and
Oh,
so the
geez.
woman you see on screen there is actually the director's future wife standing in
Oh.
for her, which I thought was kind of cute. And one of the actors cut his hand on a rock at the bottom of the lake and had to be
shit.
rushed to the hospital, so they
Oh,
had to stop
shit.
filming for a while. Let's see. Also, the skinny dipping scene. Obviously, not only brutally cold because they're shooting in the middle of October in the middle of the
it's all
night,
summer.
but according to IMDb, and I have a lot of questions about this, but it was supposed to be a closed set so that
Oh,
the,
yeah.
again, I think most of the boys doing that were of age, but they're still teenagers. They're still
Yeah.
like 18, 19.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a closed set. IMDb says that they forgot to close the set, quote unquote, and so locals came to picnic to watch the shoot, which I'm like,
You could ask people to leave.
also, let's talk about that for a second. It's 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Who's going and having a 1 a.m. picnic to
Yeah,
watch a
yeah.
bunch of 18-year-olds running around naked? That's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Imagine like Bev and Don are like, well, let's
Yeah.
go see this. Let's go get a little, and then they're like, oh god,
It
teens,
literally-
like, naked
so-
teens.
yeah,
Yikes.
some weird stories behind
Yeah.
the scenes on this one.
Weird.
So moving along into the release, opens in November of '83 in New York before expanding into LA in late May. So there's like a weird gap there.
Yeah.
Only has 15 screens on its opening weekend in the spring, so
Do
extremely
you have the
kind of.
budget for this?
I do.
Okay, we're gonna
get
wait to
into
get
it.
there.
Don't
Okay.
worry.
Yeah, because this seems like super indie. So I'm
Yeah.
not
What
surprised.
would you guess?
Oh, we don't have to jump in. Do you want to jump into
It's-
that?
It's only a couple paragraphs.
Let's
It has
wait.
it.
Let's wait. Let's lead up to it.
Okay.
15
Alright, we're
screens
almost there.
makes sense.
So
this,
small release. Also released in the UK on home video under the title Nightmare Vacation, which is
Nightmare
terrible.
Vacations. What?
I was
That's
like,
a completely different movie.
yeah, I was like, this seems like it's trying to like spin it as a Nightmare on Elm Street type of thing,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
got nothing to do with it.
Get out of
like,
here, Brits.
Yeah, get out of here, Brits.
Just kidding. You all listen to us and we love you very much.
Yeah, we actually do have a lot of
Yeah.
listeners. We love you. Also, the German listeners. I don't know why
Yeah.
you guys are still hanging on, but I'm so glad you are.
Yeah, please hang on.
Please do.
We love you.
Oh, here's my little suing story.
Ooh, forgot about that.
So in early 2000s, I want to say 2002, I should have written down the right year, released on a DVD box set called the Sleepaway Camp Survival Kit. Cute idea, right? They put it in this little like first aid
Sleeping
kit
bag?
type of box.
Oh, cute.
With
that.
like a little red cross on the cover, and the Red Cross sues them and makes them change it.
Again,
I mean,
just
if
know
you're the Red Cross.
Yeah. That actually makes sense. How do people get away with that on other things then? Is it just a little bit different of a cross?
Yes. That's a good question.
Oh.
/ maybe.
Did it actually say the Red Cross on it?
I don't think it said. It was just like the
Little plus?
Yeah, just the little plus, which one would think is a simple enough symbol that anybody could access.
Interesting.
It,
I have to look that one up. I'm curious.
Yeah. I did double check it to make sure that was like I fact checked that one, but
Yeah.
So give me your budget guess.
Oh God. 100K.
Not bad. It was about 350. Yeah,
so close.
Under a mil.
Yeah.
I almost would have guessed lower too.
I based it off of Last House on the Left.
That's what it feels
kind
the
of
most like to me, which is also part of why it almost feels like this could have been even cheaper, because Last House, it's about 10 years beforehand, and that one was around 90 to
rent a
120.
camp for kids. I bet they have them all like stay there and like kind of
Probably.
feed them all and all that stuff. So
More extras for sure, if nothing else. So that
a lot of
raise your
people.
budget a
Yeah,
little
a lot of
bit.
people.
But earned about 11 million at the box office.
Holy shit.
So, and which is amazing, not just because it's so much higher than its budget, but because of what it beat out, because it crushed the box office its opening weekend.
Yeah.
Actually did better in New York at the box office
That makes sense.
than Yentl and Amityville 3D, which were both released the same weekend.
funny.
So, and both much bigger budget movies. So
Wow.
this film, people liked it.
That's so cool. I had no
Yeah.
idea, especially for a small release to make.
Mhm.
They were probably thrilled.
Yeah. Again, horror movies, baby. They're
Damn.
cheap to make, and when they do well, they do really well.
I bet this one got like a lot of word of mouth because that ending too. It's like, oh my God, you have to fucking.
You
go
have
see
to
this
see
thing.
it to believe it.
Yeah.
Critically, a disaster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Not surprised. Not surprised.
Yeah. At least at the time. It's been kind of reappreciated recently. Or
good.
is in the process of being reappreciated. But which I'm gonna say I may be taking this a little far, but as a
You?
I know, shocking. And I'm saying this
Take us down, baby.
partially because I did listen to that How Did This Get Made episode, and it was one of their earliest ones. It was episode 48. It's from 2012, so it's way back in the early days of how did this get made.
Damn, I thought it's been on
And
there.
so like I'm not trying to throw shade. They're given a lot of 2012 humor. But they make a lot of AIDS jokes in that episode. And I'm just
okay,
gonna
so
say,
if people go back and listen,
yes,
be aware.
Beware. It could be kind of triggering because of that. But I'm just gonna say, I think one of the things that, because they're bringing that up jokingly, I seriously think that's probably a pretty big part of why this was as critically trashed as it was because this is being released, this hits theaters, it's a wide release in May of 1984. I, as a queer person, have spent a lot of time researching the AIDS epidemic, and so I brought in some like time period pinpoints.
Okay,
to say like, where are we in comparison to that?
Yeah.
So in November of '83, when the film first is screened in New York, the WHO has only just started assembling meetings to discuss the epidemic.
Wow.
In '84, October, San Francisco's just starting to shut down bathhouses. So by the time this is making its way to theaters, panic is starting to spread.
Time for this to come out.
It's an unbelievable time, especially because you think about actors were auditioning in '82. At that point, there still wasn't really even a full understanding of the epidemic. And so
Yeah.
this is this news story that's developing and shifting as this film is being made and released. And so the world in which this film was written and the world in which this film is released
Yeah.
in terms of public perception of queerness are drastically different.
And that aside, what this film does too for the time on its own.
Yes,
And then having all this context to it
exactly.
is wild to
It's
think about.
wild. So, which again, all of this is to say, I'm not trying to shame this other podcast for not having gotten into this history. I'm saying, as a queer person, I want
Yeah,
to talk
it's
about this
important.
more. It's
Yeah, yeah.
important to me.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
And I'm saying that partially because a lot of the reviews made these little kind of homophobic jabs that I wanted to
I'm
bring
not-
up.
I was really curious to see what people would say about this. So
I was too, because I was like, it's
not good.
it's
And great.
interesting. So I pulled a quote from the Chula Vista Star, which called the film, quote, "a tasteless picture about mysterious murders at a summer youth camp that obscenely blends beheadings, stabbings, pubescent impulses, homosexuality, and transvestism." So that's kind of, that
We
gives
didn't
you
have the terminology.
yeah.
At some
Gives you a
point.
general,
Yeah.
again, this is me quoting, that's not me
Yeah.
saying
Oh, yeah,
that.
yeah,
Let me
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
clarify.
Yeah. Full quotes.
But it's it gives you a sense of the tone of the world into which this film is emerging, which I think is important context, because it's easy to watch it from like a modern queer perspective and just see the ways in which it's regressive. And I think it's important to note that the fact that this film received the kind of homophobic backlash that
Yeah.
it did, I think is actually kind of partially an argument for the fact that it's transgressive in ways and kind of forward looking for its time in some ways.
Yeah, because the way they handled it, I was expecting it to be rewatching it worse than I
Yes.
thought, and I was like, oh, this is kind of
It's
just
surprisingly
kind of-
nuanced.
yeah.
Which we're gonna
We'll
get
get
into in
into.
a second. But so basically, even at the time, nobody could deny that this was a shocking movie, though. So
Oh my God,
people,
yeah.
it kind of word spreads like wildfire, and I think it's interesting because if you're giving all of these negative reviews talking about how shocking you find a slasher movie, you're saying that it was successful as a slasher movie.
I know. Again, the critics just
That's-
nailing it on the head.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the goal of this
Yep, that's- yep.
subgenre. That's the emotion that it's trying to produce. So because of that,
Yeah, it's not like a drama.
right. If you're saying that it's
Hello?
shocking, you're saying that it did what it intended to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
So anyway, that's my own personal pet peeve as I hit the
I know. I hate
microphone,
when they
but
do that, but they do all the time.
They
Never
do.
gonna stop.
It's yeah. So this film is kind of being reclaimed and reappreciated. It currently holds an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes, which was much higher.
Oh my
than
God,
I
I forgot to pull that
expected.
from mine. But
Don't worry about it. So respectable rating.
yeah, damn.
Right?
For like this like B horror.
Yeah, B or C, honestly. Like
Yeah.
it's
pretty-
cheap as shit.
Yeah.
Which I love. I say that with so much
Yeah.
love. So Hitchcock then, after this film is released, he sells the sequel rights, which is why you don't see him involved in any of the other franchise installments until 2008. But there are a couple others. There's Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers. Then you get Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland. Both of
never know it.
those recast Angela. And do you know who's playing her in those?
Everyone looks so generic.
It's not somebody that you'd remember for what she looks like, but for who she is. It is Bruce Springsteen's little sister, Pamela. Isn't that
Oh my God,
wild?
that's so funny.
Yeah. So we have Mike the Situation's older brother and Bruce Springsteen's little sister.
All these
All these New
nep-
Jersey
yeah,
icons.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wild.
Isn't that weird? Then there's a fourth installment, which I got really interested in, called Sleepaway Camp 4: The Survivor, which I haven't seen it, but it's directed, quote unquote directed, by Jim Markovic in the 90s, never fully finishes filming. Then in 2002, the footage from this unfinished film gets included as a bonus on that Red Cross box set that they get sued for. Then, a full decade later in 2012, it gets completed using recycled archival footage from the first 3 movies.
Whoa.
Which therefore means, and is released only on streaming and DVD, doesn't get a
Yeah.
theatrical release. But because of that, I'm like, That raises a lot of juicy auteur theory questions about who the director really is, because that means
Yeah.
it's footage shot from three
3
different directors
yeah.
across 4 different movies that get combined
Wild.
into this one. So
Oh.
just
Now I don't know if
interesting
I've
from
seen
a
the 4th one.
film perspective. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I gotta rewatch all these.
And then there's Return to Sleepaway Camp, the one Hitchcock directs, which
Have not seen that.
finishes filming in 2003, isn't released until 2008 because they keep redoing the digital effects, because that's that early 2000s period where stuff is changing so
Boo.
fast.
Boo on
I
the
know.
digital.
Again, I
Boo.
haven't seen it. It could be amazing, but somehow I doubt it.
The campiness of these movies.
I feel like if you're trying to make it look too realistic, you're maybe
Trying
missing
too
out
hard. You're
part
trying
of the
too hard.
point. Yeah.
Cut that budget, baby.
There have also been discussions of additional installments with both the original director and Felissa Rose, who was actually in 2023 pitching a sequel focusing on Aunt Martha, or a prequel focusing on Aunt Martha. which
Aunt
I was
Martha
like,
is so Suspiria coded.
oh my god, right? I'm so glad we watched Suspiria before this, because I was like, I feel like that's like
That's where she
required
lives.
context
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah.
Because to me, Aunt Martha is one of the most interesting parts of this movie.
Yeah.
She's
so out of pocket in this.
Yes.
Like, visually, the way she speaks is like such a weird, like, dream sequence. I feel like her house lives on a little cloud, and that's how you
Yeah.
get there.
like she lives in a different world.
Yeah.
And
She lives in the house next to the ballet school in Suspiria. I'm like
Yes.
fully convinced, and that is on a cloud.
yes, and like that shouldn't work, but for
It
me
weirdly
it does.
does.
Does it? It works for you too? I'm so glad, because like there's something about her. She feels like she's stepped straight out of like her acting style feels very Wild at Heart to me, the David Lynch movie.
Oh, yeah.
Or like
Twin Peaks.
yeah, or like she almost feels like she could be like the evil stepmother in a fairy tale. Like she has that sort of an elevated theatricality.
I was gonna say it's really theatrical, really like over the top, but
it feels
not
so intentional.
yeah.
It doesn't.
Her outfits and everything too. Yeah,
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a bad actor. It feels like a good actor doing something over the top.
It was a choice.
intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually was half expecting you to come in wearing something like her.
Now that you're saying
know.
that,
I don't know why I thought you were gonna be
God.
like, I'm going this direction with this outfit today.
Oh, what
This
a
is very
missed
Siena,
opportunity!
But I just thought that one was like so wild and like.
You know why
Why do you keep saying wild right now?
Because I just said Wild
Let's
at
do
Heart.
let's do a wild count. How many times I said it in the last 10 minutes? But yeah, I like half expected you to pull.
You know
from
why I
her.
did this was because one of the characters is wearing a Blue Oyster Cult t-shirt.
We looked it up because I wanted it so
Oh my
bad.
God,
With
of
the Grim
course you
Reaper
did.
riding the horse, we tried to
Mhm.
find it online. It's exact. Oh, I knew
No.
the reference right away.
Oh, I'm so
I could
glad.
tell. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was like, this is the closest
Yeah,
to a
yeah,
Blue
yeah.
Oyster Cult shirt that I have.
Such good wardrobe.
I'll also shout out Felissa Rose does reprise the character of Angela in the parody movie Caesar and Otto's Summer Camp Massacre. So if you want more Angela,
She's
there's
in
more
there?
Angela in there
Whoa.
with the same actor. So
Damn.
yeah, I had my reference here to
She's
how did this
terrifying.
get made. I feel like if you like our show, you may not
Like that
love
one.
their takes on it.
Yeah.
But again, I love the people who make How Did This Get Made? It's just a very early episode.
Yeah.
So, which brings us to Film Theory. Rant
Yay.
Corner. So there's so much to talk about with this movie. So I'm gonna start us out with
Should we have a little like ring?
oh my god,
Ring? That needs to be your Film
yes.
Theory Rant Corner.
just some psycho
And then we just
soundtrack.
pass a little knife to you to hold.
The official knife of the Film Theory
Yeah.
Rant Corner. I love that. So starting us off with a quote from Bartolomiej Pajulik
Good job.
in The Pleasure and Pain of Cult Horror Films, a Historical Survey, book from 2009. He describes this film as, quote, elevating the kids to the position of the movie's mass protagonist, and the movie therefore becomes a tricky metaphor of the unspeakable pains and anxieties of growing up. Which I wanted to start us there as we
Right.
move into the conversation about
Yep.
the queerness and transness of it all.
Yeah.
Which
Good place to start.
great place to start. Kind of starting wide and funneling in closer. I am not a trans woman. I listened to a lot of trans women's takes and read a lot of trans women's takes on this to
Oh,
prepare.
nice.
And I have a bunch of reference points to suggest if you want to go listen to people talk about that who are more qualified to than
Yeah.
I am. In particular, Kat Black has an amazing YouTube video called A Trans Woman Reviews Sleepaway Camp,
Oh, cool.
which gives incredibly nuanced perspectives on a lot of different takes on this film,
Yeah.
because this is a film that, in general, again, I don't want to speak for a whole community, but this is a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
divisive film. There's people who really, really love this film. There's people who really, really hate this film. I think there's really good cases to make
I was
either
gonna say
way.
there's room for both of those arguments.
Absolutely. And the reason why I wanted to shout out Kat's video in particular is because she gives a lot of really nuanced weight to both of those sides.
Oh, cool.
And so it's like,
Okay.
if you
That's a
want
nice-
kind of a good overview of different takes from within voices of the trans community, she quotes from a lot of other trans writers
cool.
too. So
Okay.
like,
I have to
if
check
you
that out.
want just like a qualified overview,
Yeah.
that's where I'd go.
Yeah, don't we'll just breeze through.
Exactly. So one of the things that she points out, I think very wisely, is that the director himself has given interviews that, while not really explicit about what he's trying to do with this film, don't give a great impression of him in terms of, is this a transphobic person or not? And so mainly just because he's very kind of mushy and inarticulate in the ways that he talks
just-
about what he's doing with gender.
See, like
in this
I just thought it
film.
was scary. It's like, ooh,
Yeah,
yikes,
he's sort of just
yikes.
like, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff about gender going on, and it's like, okay, I can tell that
Somebody doesn't-
you're trying, but like you don't really know what you're getting at here.
Yeah.
But part of what I love so much about film as a medium is that it's not just up to the director. And so that's where I want to go with this film theory rant corner. Not only do we, the audience, bring our own context, but also he's not the only creative force at work here. There are lots of other people involved, and this is where I bring in Felissa Rose.
Oh,
who,
cool.
again,
Okay.
I'm obsessed with her,
Yeah.
y'all. She's so interesting.
Damn.
One of the things that she brings up because she's, again, given a lot of interviews about this performance, about how the trans community has responded to it, which I will say, one of the few things that almost everybody that I've read and listened to talking about this film agrees on is that Felissa Rose's performance is amazing. Like, whether or not you like how the director handles it, she's giving a really nuanced performance.
Yeah, she's so ingrained in like the horror community that I think, and like the horror community is inherently super queer. So,
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the things that she talks about that I thought just like gives fascinating background and perspective, again, as we're talking about the greater historical context this movie emerges in, 5 years before she was cast in this, in 1977, Felissa's father opens New York's first openly gay resort. And so she comes from this incredibly progressive family that has
Cool.
these longstanding ties to the community.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really important part of why she's able to give the performance that she gives, is that even though she's only 13 at the time, she is somebody who has grown up around a lot of queer people. And I pulled some really great quotes from her. Again, she's talked about this a lot. She says, I absolutely don't feel it's transphobic. I feel as though Angela was a typical adolescent trying to find her gender identification and sexual orientation. And I thought that was extremely exciting for 1982. It was ahead of its time. You can see with her father and his lover, as well as her relationship with Paul, her camp crush, who she's trying to understand her relationship with. I feel like it was an adolescent story of a young person coming of age with all of the murders on the side. And I think that attitude that she brings to the character is so crucial to why this film is as rich as it is. That it really is, it's a coming of age story.
I was just gonna say it's a coming of age, a coming into your own, coming into like identity, however you want to read into that, or like whatever perspective you come to, like coming into your identity. I think it's also, and I don't know if you get into it too, but like the idea we talked about mine, like of choice, is like there wasn't choice in this too. So like how does that impact? I think that's where like the murder, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, did they even, like, did Angela even want this? Like,
it's
or is
unclear. We don't know.
But also such like a pivotal age of like being told what you are. I think we've all experienced being told like what you are, who you are, growing up at that age, or just trying to be like others. And like, what does that look like too?
And I think that sense of confinement within one's own body
Yeah.
is something
God.
that is a very relatable experience wherever you
extremely.
fall on the gender spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's just, she's grounding it in a lot of reality that I think maybe the director isn't necessarily bringing.
Yeah.
And so this kind of brings us to the big question that I was wrestling with, which is Angela really the villain, or is she the final girl? And this is something that other people have written about. I found
cool.
somebody named Willow McClay, writing in Clio Journal, has a quote. She says, by making Angela a whipping post for constant teasing, she becomes the central character. In horror movie tropes, she's set up to be the final girl, someone you rally around when she's eventually confronted with the incarnation of evil. However, Hitchcock subverts this idea by making Angela not a victim but the killer. And I was sitting with that and I was like, I feel differently.
I do too.
Yeah.
I feel like she's such a victim.
I feel like she's a victim too.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this and I was like, the more I think about this, the more I think she is the final girl, particularly
That's so interesting,
because, you know, and I went back to Carol Clover,
Of course.
brought Carol out, and I was thinking about, you know, Carol talks about the phallic appropriation where the final girl takes on the weapon of the killer in order to,
Yeah, I remember you talked about this.
in self-defense. And to me, that's what she's doing at the end. It is her reappropriating the weapons that have been used against her, not her, because again, this is a movie that doesn't have a lot of kills. Most of the people that she attacks are people who have just explicitly wronged her, that she's taking revenge against.
Yeah.
That revenge, for the most part, involves causing pain but not causing death, which is a very traditional final girl thing. That's particularly because, think back to Sally from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. She can't kill Leatherface. She can only wound Leatherface because we need Leatherface to come back in the sequels. And so who is the person who's the wronged woman who goes around wounding a lot of other characters but not actually killing them? That's the final girl, bitch. That's not the villain.
Justice for Angela.
Justice for Angela. So it's, to me, that final moment feels, part of what is so conflicting about where this film ends is that it does feel like that final moment is played for this shock reveal of this trans body or of this genderqueer body. Yeah. But I was thinking about it and I was like, part of what feels so unnerving about that moment is also just that there's this element of the way that the physical construction of the mask is done, where because it is so... It sits so wrong.
Also just the noises.
Yes.
I'm like, Angela, sweetie, I love you. Don't make that noise again.
Honey, no.
Honey, please. Stop.
Honey, no.
But yeah, it's jarring in that sense to see that bigger bobblehead with that expression, with those noises, more than the other. For me.
It's that there's... You know? It made me think again about the Freudian uncanny more than anything else, because it's so clearly a mask. It's so clearly, like, the eyes can't blink, the mouth can't move, the face is in this frozen position. And it's so, the head is the wrong size for the body. And to me, that's the thing that freaked me out the most.
Yeah, it's that and the noises really fucking get me.
Yeah.
I think that we talked in Texas Chainsaw too, just like those like pig gutturally noises. It's just like, it's so uncanny in that way that the body wasn't the shock so much. I thought that was the twist, that whole like ant thing, but it's just those things in particular.
Yeah. And
not a fan. Creepy.
It's so creepy. And so like, again, I don't really have I don't have a conclusion to draw about this necessarily, as much as just to say that there's something complicated going on in the filmmaking there, where like that almost, it reminded me of the Exquisite Corpse game that you play as a little kid, where you take a piece of paper, fold it into 3 parts, and one person draws the legs, and then you cover that up, hand it to another person, they draw the middle of the body. It's that
witch.
True. Drown me and see if I float. Yeah. If I do, then I'm a witch and you should kill me.
That's wild.
Like there's something going on there that's much more complicated than just like, ooh, trans body scary. Like it's
yeah.
and what's even more complicated in my opinion is the way that they depict what's going on with her father and his lover, which is something that a lot of people have pinpointed as, oh, this is where the movie gets homophobic. There's an interpretation of this movie that is Angela is traumatized by her dad being gay and so kills people, which I was like, I feel like if that's the conclusion you walk away from this movie with, you're homophobic.
I was gonna say that's so weird.
And
Because it doesn't like come back
right
back at the end. So.
And like to me,
I just
I
feel
went
like-
back and I rewatched the scene of the reveal of her memory of her dad in bed with his lover like 5 times.
Yeah.
Just to like take notes on it from a filmmaking level.
Yeah.
I don't think that's being played for horror. Look at the music that's being played. It's children's music. There's like this gentle tinkling music going on over it. It's in this like weird black box memory space.
Yeah.
Like it's played like a scene from a children's book, not like a scene from a horror movie. And there are scenes in this where you do get the traditional horror movie stabbing music and
Right. Yeah.
it also like all she sees them doing lying in bed together is caressing each other's faces.
Yeah,
and
but
it's
that'd be
this
like
very
I'm gonna be
tender
honest. Seeing your
moment.
parents do that at
Yeah.
that age would be traumatizing. I don't care who's
that's
doing
the
what to wear.
thing.
And that's
Like
just
that's to me that's just like a kid seeing your parents in bed with anybody.
yeah.
I don't think
That would,
that's
like, hard
about
be burned in my
queerness
brain.
or gender.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
just about childhood versus adulthood.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, that's what the movie's about.
And
It's
that's
about coming of age.
Yeah. And again, the perspective I'm coming from is solely my own, from the life I lived. But it's that ending is more like this child that was not, when your brain is truly developing and they're going through all these really big life changes and then have no outlet for it. They like
And no
where therapy would have
context.
been great.
Right.
They're not given these things.
Right.
So like the murder is kind of like the murdering aspect is just this like symptom of this larger thing.
I mean, also, I don't know about you, but to me, the scariest scene in this movie is when Artie takes Angela into the freezer and is like, I've got a treat for you. There is nothing in this movie more frightening than that. And that's the
I don't
real
know, the
villain.
stabbing in the back through the shower.
Okay, that's a
kinda
bad
got
one.
me.
That's a bad one.
The bee crawling into the orifice kind of got me.
Okay, there are some
The
scary things in
pustule.
this movie.
No, but yeah.
But like, if you look at it, like, to me, the real villain of the movie is that, like, everybody
all
can
the
tell that they're,
adults, I think, are the
everybody can tell that
villains.
this is a camp run by a bunch of pedophiles and
know.
nobody's doing anything
know.
about it. And, like, that's scary.
Yeah.
Like,
That's why like the adults are the villain in this. So like, so to
Yeah.
your point, her kind of this is her unleashing,
it's her revenge.
and then they
Yeah.
kind of just put her in that fight. I never thought of thinking. I always saw her as like a victim of all these circumstances that like she had just nobody there for her. But calling her a final girl, I've never.
She's a
thought
final
of until now.
girl.
Yeah,
She's a
fucking
final
Angela.
girl. I love her.
Ugh.
So just one other note that I wanted to give you, just a little art history tidbit.
Oh, okay.
You know the first nighttime canoe scene where we get, I think that's
Oh
probably
my god, I might
that
have a
first
tidbit
death.
for you. Actually, based on this.
Tell me your tidbit.
No, you go first.
I just, as soon as that shot came on screen, I was like, oh my god, that canoe shot is a reference to the painting The Lady of Shalott by John William Waterhouse, which I'll put a YouTube video.
Cool.
Have you seen this painting?
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks familiar, at least. I didn't know the name of it.
I'll
or
put a
anything.
clip of that up.
I love that style.
Yeah, but the framing of that shot is a direct reference to that painting. So
I forgot to mention, and I know what you did last summer. I think it's in the beginning when they're all hanging out by that like broken canoe. They got that shot based off of a painting.
no,
And they
I
recreated
love
it. So they're both
that.
like, that's so weird.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I love an
totally.
art
Because I
history
breezed
tidbit.
through my maybe we'll throw it up on social,
There you
but
go.
I breezed through some of my production notes. But that was one of them.
Oh, that's so cool.
Weird.
That's so
Ugh.
creepy. I also just wanted to shout out a couple little things that felt to me like references to other movies. There are a couple of moments, I think especially at the very beginning, that opening scene where we have the brother and sister on the lake in their matching
yeah.
vests that felt very Grady Twins in The Shining coded.
Ooh.
I also thought the whole bring the kid into the industrial kitchen for ice cream to calm them down feels like a Shining reference too, because that's
yeah.
how
Yeah.
that's how Danny finds out about The Shining.
Oh, that seems so good.
Right. Oh, also, can we take a second to talk about Judy's shirt that just says Judy in giant print?
Yeah. The shirt's
Icon.
Yeah, she's so fucking good.
I was obsessed.
She's so great.
So good. Yeah, I think that's. Oh, the other reference I wanted to shout out, the when Judy's dying and we just see the shadows on the wall, very clearly a Nosferatu reference too. That
it's hard when you get into like those shadowy kind of like, it's like, okay, we know.
You
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I love Sleepaway Camp.
And imagine it was almost Jane Krakowski.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. God, again, the wild count. I'm up to like 50 at this point. Shut up, Al.
Yep.
What would you rate? I want you to watch the other ones too. They're, from my memory, drastically.
I'm
they're
sure
not
very
drastically different, but just like
Well, because I know
they're more like teen.
they take a firm stance that Angela is a trans woman and she gets gender affirming surgical care, and that's like where the plot goes from there. And so I feel like that's occupying a very different space in her life than this moment of her coming of age, which to me that's like so much of what's interesting. I'm really torn between a 3.5 and a 4 because
it's high for you.
I wasn't expecting this to be so good, but it's so juicy. It's so meaty. There's so much to dig into.
Yeah.
And so again, it's if it weren't for that last 30 seconds, I would give it a straight 4. It's there's just like there's ickiness there in the filmmaking that I'm still working through and figuring out. That again is like there's so many layers to it. There's so many different things going in different directions, but I feel like the way the ending is shot, particularly ending on a freeze frame that changes to green and black, which feels like kind of like it's trying to do an Exorcist reference that just kind of comes out of nowhere. It just feels like it ends in a place that's more inelegant than what it's been doing so far. So,
it really could have ended on a higher like philosophical note.
Yeah, because it is able to carry so many conflicting things at once. He didn't know what he was
I don't
doing.
think there was like
I don't think there was a clear intent. Or like a clear authorial, here's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I don't think there was a statement behind it.
Yeah.
From him.
Yeah. From her.
Yeah.
Very clear and gorgeously done. So I guess 3.5.
Yeah.
But a strong 3.5.
Yeah.
A recommend watching 3.5.
Yeah.
How about you?
Probably like 3.
Okay.
3.5.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite of them all.
Fair.
So,
Fair.
But
it's not necessarily
iconic, worth seeing.
Scary, but it's
I don't know, there's moments. Could that be really got me.
Again, the boiling water. That was pretty brutal. But
we're gonna tease next time.
I'm excited for our next pairing.
Too.
We once again came in with no idea what we were doing.
Don't
chose
tell
it
everybody.
five minutes beforehand.
I was like, so Siena, we gotta choose. And Siena's like, I have things. I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank fuck you do.
See, again, my inner theater kid kind of loves it when we come in and I get to like improvise an idea.
No, I love it. Yeah, jazz, baby. I'm all for
it's all jazz.
We're doing. I don't know what year it came out. I'm doing the faculty. We're doing like a back to school, aka in school pairing, and you're doing.
I'm doing the craft.
We're finally getting to it. The craft.
Because we started out. That was one of the ones that I talked about on my top 5 Halloween movie watches.
Yeah, it was.
And I believe that is the first of my top 5 that we're getting to.
Oh my God.
Whereas we've done 1 or 2 of yours.
I think yeah. We touched some of mine.
Yeah.
I'm excited to. I don't know. The craft is just. Again, I'm like
my little
watching the craft is actually my lead into my spooky season, and so this feels like so perfectly timed.
It's one that I would always watch around back to school, so it's good timing for it.
There were months in college when I would watch the craft. I don't know I think I've talked about it on here, but like I will watch a film to death. Like I will watch it. It's all I will watch all day.
Absolutely.
So I'll watch it like 4 times in a day for like months at a time. And there was a period where I was only watching the craft, and my outfits, if I show you pictures, So I'm very excited.
Oh,
I just bought my
the
favorite.
fits for the craft.
I just
We're gonna have so much fun.
rebought my favorite lipstick that I used to wear for like 10 years straight, and I stopped wearing it. Black Cherry by Revlon is my dark lip color, and I'm so excited. I almost wore it today, and now it's perfectly timed that I'm pulling out. So yeah, faculty, the craft, I'm excited for that. We're hoping to play the craft at the Jean Cocteau Cinema, so keep an eye out for that. I think we said we're playing Jaws coming up, so get tickets at jeancocteaucinema.com.
9th through 11th of August.
9th through 11th. Come see us at the Bruja Brunch at the Crow's Nest here in Santa Fe.
You can probably come see Jaws and then come see us.
Come see us.
Brunch.
Pre-game there. Come see us.
Make it
There's
a whole Splice and Splatter day.
Yeah. And then we might actually, all of us, Warren, Trav, Siena, and I are going to, what is it called? The
Krypton
Morgue. Yeah,
I can't remember
Horror
which order
Fest
it is.
in Albuquerque.
Yes.
Sorry if we got the name wrong.
September? Right?
Yes, yeah. We're gonna be popping around there, so you can come if you're again local. Come see
us in the flesh.
Yeah. We might have merch and stuff like
flesh.
that. The new flesh. What else? I think that's it. With that, follow us on social media at Splice and Splatter Pod. You can watch all of our videos on YouTube.
I have to say, just real quick, because I know you don't see
the
our letterbox as much as I do. I don't know if you saw my message from last night. I am so delighted every time I see somebody follow our letterbox, and a lot of the time I will like go creep your profiles after you follow our letterbox.
Yeah, we do that a lot because you all are so cool.
Because you're so cool. And like it brings me so much joy when I can tell somebody's like just found the podcast and is like listening back through episodes as I see
someone had brand new cherry flavor on there on their watch list.
Somebody's been listening.
I
to
love you,
Al.
whoever you are. If anyone's watching or has watched or because of my ranting, please, I'm covering it at some point. I swear. But I loved seeing that specifically. I'm like, oh, that's definitely me.
Yeah, I was like, we're making an influence.
Yeah. Thanks also for everyone.
What was that, Siena?
Listening.
I speak English sometimes.
Here's the thing. Compared to me, you look great. So don't worry. Thanks for everyone who's rating, sharing, finding us on TikTok. I know it's a big place we post a lot. Just thank you for listening. It's really cool to see you guys kind of like grow.
Again, I'm so sorry that will never be funny, but
comments were canceled. Sorry, guys.
Girls gotta try.
No, you all are awesome, and it's wild to see the support you give us. Speaking of support, thank you,
support us?
Warren Langford, for doing audio and giggling at us today. Thank you. No thanks to Travis Fowler for coming in front of the camera today, only being behind it.
And for leaving us.
Oh, yeah, and Travis going to be out doing other filmy things. And thanks to Theo Schaefer again. We're gonna get you maybe to do our film theory rant corner.
I think we've officially come to the place.
Yeah, I think the time has come.
I will literally pay for it myself if I have
to. Until then, thanks for listening to Splice and Splatter,
the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a classic horror.
It's modern gore.
And until next time, we'll be right back.